The golden sand rolled in waves, with dust flying upwards in chaos. Amidst the wind-blown dust, a man forged his way out against the wind. He spat several times, ejecting several large mouthfuls of the yellow sand. This Buddhist power is rather too excessive to unexpectedly seem actually able to create a celestial. The man was attractive in appearance. Naturally, he was Sushing gazing around at this boundless lust. He felt even more helpless. This place was the 4th level of the 7-floor stupa pagoda. As tranquil as the 3rd level, this 4th celestial could be considered berserk. The yellow sand rolled irritatingly to the point a person simply could not open their eyes. And star energy had seemingly lost its use. Those fine sand particles made their way in from the small chinks in clothes. Sticking to skin, they were very uncomfortable, with Sushing completely losing all sense of direction. The environment was vile to the extreme. However, compared to this, what made Sushing even more gloomy was that he was completely unclear what the fable of the 7-floor stupa pagoda's 4th level was, nor did he know how long he had searched futilely for the exit before finding none. This made Sushing have a very helpless feeling. Do you want to give up instead? Shi Yuan felt very sorry. Compared to listening to holy monks propagate Dharma to bloom the meditative flower, the thief star still felt there was a more convenient way, for example, going and stealing that 5 dragons colored glass lamp. There must be sincerity for this sort of thing. To give up here certainly isn't my style. How could Sushing not know her thoughts? He breathed deeply, unwilling to concede defeat. All of the girls tacitly understood. Although he was not clear on the significance of this yellow sand, Sushing still did not give up, still swiftly flying in the boundlessly rolling yellow dust. The ferried are hard to come by, like the excellent queen of the night. The ferried are like the dirt in my fist, the unferried like the great earth. Unknown how long after, Sushing suddenly heard a spirit song faintly discernible in the yellow sand. That voice was like the sound of nature, graceful. Once it entered his ear, it immediately made Sushing feel that the yellow sand filling the sky seemingly disappear. Sushing stopped for a moment and stared in front of him. This voice was somewhat familiar. A moment later, a woman dressed in simple and elegant blue and white walked out. Her steps delicate as flowers, her posture lithe. The yellow sand rolled up to and away from her body, scattering then gathering, yet simply unable to approach her. Qingxi, Sushing was stunned. Qingxi was similarly surprised, stopping her song. Looking at Sushing, those eyes that were more limpid than jade flashed with a strange light. Truly, we have a connection. Sushing descended before her. Qingxi subconsciously took a half-step back. Although her movement did not leave a trace, this nevertheless did not escape Sushing's attention. Sushing did not change expression, but he concentrated on Qingxi. Every time he saw her, he would have a feeling as if heaven and man were shocked, as if she could have appeared only in a portrait. Beautifully graceful, not displeasing to the eye. Why has young Lord Sushing come to this 7-floor stupa pagoda? Qingxi's face wore a delighted smile. Looking at this 7-floor stupa pagoda isn't anything bad. Never expected you to also have a very meditative mind, Qingxi. I truly couldn't tell. Sushing showed a bit of surprise. Qingxi smiled. The mind is namely that of the meditative mind. The logic is inherently the same. As young lord is a star master, are you not allowed to come to this pagoda? Exactly. Sushing nodded. However, seeing you is actually too good, Qingxi. Do you know how to go about this 4th level of the stupa pagoda? Does young lord also not know? Qingxi's long eyelashes trembled. Sushing shook his head. The mysteries of Buddhism's trials are too numerous. For the time being, I haven't figured it out. One man walking alone just happens to feel monotonous. And since our goals are identical, would it not be better to journey forth together? 2 people can comprehend the profundity even more quickly. Qingxi thought for a while, and then she slightly nodded her head. Then your servant shall trouble young Lord Sushing. The 2 slowly wandered the yellow sand, thinking of a way to deal with this. During that time, each of Sushing's conjectures he proposed to Qingxi were very promising, but she was like Sushing. Qingxi completely did not know where the mystery of this yellow sand was. There was no sense of time in the void, and gradually, the pair no longer asked. Qingxi, that song earlier, What did you mean when you said, the ferried are hard to come by? Su Xing was very curious. That is from the Nirvana Sutra. When Mara asks Buddha that with the number of living things he has ferried, he should have entered nirvana by now, Buddha grasps a handful of dirt and says, the ferried are like the dirt in my fist, and the unferried are like the great earth. The great earth? Would that have some connection with this level? Su Xing wrinkled his brow, and he grasped a clump of yellow dirt from the ground. Seeing Su Xing sink into contemplation, Qingxi slightly smiled to the side, not disturbing him. Your servant also feels making contact with such a scene produces this feeling. Your servant wonders if young Lord Su Xing can discern anything. Yellow earth, the ferried living nirvana, the great earth? Su Xing played with the yellow sand and dust in his palm, sprinkling then gathering then sprinkling, repeatedly and reversed. He concentrated completely and forgot the surrounding environment. Qingxi watched Su Xing, feeling that this man's earnest pondering appearance was rather fascinating. Now is a good time to kill him. In her sea of consciousness, a murderous and inflamed voice resounded. Qingxi's heart stirred. That white finger subconsciously gripped tightly. Su Xing is so powerful. Even Lu Junyi has conceded defeat. Normally, killing him indeed is as difficult as ascending to heaven. Now is the perfect opportunity. Wang Jingji also analyzed. This moment truly was bestowed by heaven. The 7th-floor stupa pagoda had sealed the star nest, and Su Xing could not call 4th-star generals for assistance. His advantage had completely disappeared. And even more important was that at this moment he seemed completely unaware, the adorable appearance of something craning its neck as it awaited slaughter. But to plan this against a cute and fascinating person pondering earnestly made Wang Jingji feel it was a pity. Qingxi showed a hesitant expression. By Qingxi's dragon has 9 suns magic weapon, the Yazi saber appeared. To separate Su Xing's head from the rest of his body was not necessarily too probable. If it was not for being unable to emerge, your servant would have immediately taken his head. Little Marquis of Wen Lu Fong was unreconciled. Sister Qingxi, what misgivings do you still have? The living goddess of lightning Wang Jingji smiled. Even Buddha is helping elder sister. Qingxi's hesitation still did not dispel. Killer star Li Longkue gloomily growled. Elder sister Qingxi, there absolutely cannot be any mercy in elder sister's heart in the star duels. Could it be that elder sister has forgotten? She shall lead us up Maiden Mountain? The black whirlwind's words were like thunder in her ears, shaking Qingxi into staring blankly on the spot. Qingxi really was not unclear about this logic, but by doing so the sisters inside Su Xing's star nest will die. 3. Oh, elder sister is concerned about this. Her words made Wang Jingji and the others surprised. This is the path they themselves chose. Big sister, kill him. Spare the trouble later. Li Longkue absolutely was not the least bit merciful. The killer star's eyes always had only 2 kinds of people. The sisters that followed elder sister and the sisters that died under her axe. It seemed this apparently iron truth was one even a sluggish person would find profound. Neither did Qingxi know why she did not wish to deal a killing blow. Could it be because the several times they met before, she felt Su Xing was not a foe? However, looking now, Su Xing coming to this 7th-floor stupa pagoda very clearly illustrated, he had come for the heavenly solitary star. As Lu Xiao had said, for this man to be able to reach this stage, perhaps he honestly could possibly create a miracle. Seize this chance to kill him? An idea flashed by. 2 things fill the mind with ever-increasing wonder and awe. The more often and the more intensely the mind of thought is drawn to them. The starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. Suddenly, Su Xing's gentle laugh ended Qingxi's struggle. Su Xing had already woken from his contemplation, and a slight feeling of relief, like that of unloading a burden, flashed through Qingxi's heart. No wonder Lin Chong and Wu Song would be willing to follow young Lord Su Xing. These words are very wise and knowledgeable. Qingxi returned to her senses. She carefully listened to the words Su Xing said, and was startled to the extreme. These words were simply more philosophical than those of great monks that had attained the Tao. Even the star generals that itched to kill him as soon as possible were left tongue-tied, with a whole new level of respect for him. These aren't my words. Su Xing smiled. He did not want such a vain halo. They were words uttered by a philosopher named Kant. I am very fond of this saying. Su Xing's generous admission took Qingxi by surprise. This was more shocking than hearing the previous phrase. The starry heavens above me, the moral law within me. Qingxi pondered. Just now you thought of killing me. Su Xing seemingly smiled. Although he had been continuously contemplating just now, the Yan Yizhen and others inside the star nest nevertheless did not forget Qingxi's existence. Qingxi's hesitation and endlessly complex expression were entirely in Su Xing's eyes. Qingxi faintly smiled. Young Lord Su Xing, could it be you have not thought of killing your servant? There had never been a need to hide the calculations star masters had for each other in the star duels. Instead, they would have felt artificial. I actually do not have interest in ruining a flower of my own accord. Su Xing said. When Qingxi heard Su Xing's phrase of my own accord, was the hidden meaning of his words, I will not hesitate at all to act? Should your servant rejoice? Qingxi's smile this time was full of mystique. I feel we actually are the same type of person. Su Xing looked at her. In a certain aspect, your servant is indeed very surprised at the similarities between young Lord Su Xing and your servant. Qingxi hinted. Su Xing laughed. It seems we indeed have a connection. You're actually quite like my big sister. If we do not make a move here, it would be better for you to be my little sister. Qingxi's lips parted, not understanding what the logical connection between quite like your big sister and be your little sister was. Young Lord Su Xing, are you making fun of your servant? I truly am thinking of this. Su Xing was resolute, absolutely not making fun of her in the slightest. Qingxi fell into deep thought. This man is deceiving elder sister, do not believe him. Li Longkuei's tone was fierce. Qingxi burst with a graceful and subdued smile. To make your servant be your little sister, young Lord Su Xing honestly will take the dominant position. Then are you willing to inform me your age? Your servant wishes to ask another question. Is young Lord Su Xing truly resolved to become sworn siblings with your servant, a star master? Su Xing nodded. So long as it's someone I'm fond of, I don't want to be enemies. How can your servant decline such an absolutely beneficial thing? However, to be your servant's big brother, perhaps is not so easy. Qingxi slightly smiled. It seemed he was not at all opposed to something like sworn siblings. Qingxi, then what do you want to do? Su Xing asked her. This sort of thing naturally will be known after comparison. Huh. You wouldn't think of fighting me here, right? Su Xing was speechless. Young Lord Su Xing, do not look down on your servant. Your servant once had the fortune of learning a bit of sword technique from a supervoid sword saint. Qingxi lightly spun, directly walking over. Supervoid sword saint? Was that not a sword cultivator that had reached supervoid stage cultivation? Although Liangshan continent's sword cultivators were many, those that cultivated to supervoid stage were exceedingly rare. Just what was the background of this Qingxi? To unexpectedly receive instruction from a supervoid sword saint. Su Xing was very skeptical, and the star maidens in the star nest did not believe her. Any way they looked, the Qingxi in front of them appeared like that legendary willow too weak to stand in the wind. Her delicate hands could write beautiful characters, Su Xing believed, but to speak of sword technique, he was very skeptical. Su Xing, you're so unfaithful. You must have seen that she was a beauty to want to become sworn siblings with her. Sure, Yuan sourly said. She couldn't compare to any of you, even if she was any prettier. Su Xing shook his head. Although Qingxi's dainty beauty was graceful as a portrait, eliciting amazement, it was unlikely to make Su Xing so willing to become sworn siblings. The reason why was that besides indeed not wishing to voluntarily ruin a flower, there was also another reason, which was to trap her. Su Xing had a sort of premonition. The Qingxi in front of him would someday be a pivotal point in the star duels, so right now Su Xing wanted for both sides to not reach a state of mutual hostility for as long as possible. To maintain good relations before a state of you die, I live. This sort of thing was nothing anyways, let alone that what Su Xing said was slightly true. Qingxi's quiet personality, like the unmarried daughter of a noble family, was indeed very much like one of his elder female cousins from before. The feeling of having her call out Big Brother was not bad either. She indeed gives Suwon a very familiar feeling. And Suwon did not oppose Su Xing's thoughts. So long as she does not harm Master. Yan Yizhen had always kept her private and public interests distinct. Gong Sunhuang and Tang Lianqi naturally did not have any dissent. Oh boy, this young lady has to play the role of strict parent again. Shi Yuan groaned. The others could not help laughing. While Su Xing currently discussed with the girls inside the star nest, Qingci was also putting on a similar show. However, compared to the harmony of Su Xing's side, Qingci's star generals were far more intense. Other than comparable to Rengue Guoshui, who was not fond of chatting, they more or less expressed confusion. Li Longkui was particularly very belligerent. At the current phase, becoming sworn siblings with him does not have any disadvantages at all, and we perhaps will need his aid in the fourth phase. Qingci explained. Is he worthy of belief? Worthy of belief or not? This poses no disadvantage to your servant. Is that not so? Qingci lightly smiled. Wu, it seems so, but for elder sister to lose and recognize him as big brother. Excessively haggling over gains and losses will only lead to gains that do not make up for losses. Remember this sentence. Qingci calmly said. She turned around, her blue clothes fluttering along with her hair. Those eyes clearer than gems stared at Su Xing, showing a mysterious luster. Your servant currently hesitates over the matter of his star generals. Now it seems, this sworn siblings matter is your servant's opportunity. What does elder sister mean? Li Longkui's anger had dissipated. The woman could hear the meaning of Qingci's words. We will see at that time. Longkui, elder sister shall not be deceived by a few words from a man. Qingci stared at Su Xing. It is perfect to borrow this opportunity to see the innate skill he inherited from the majestic star, to see what ability he possesses. Qingci, have you finished preparing? Su Xing hollered from his side. Young Lord Su Xing, if you will. Qingci flipped out a long sword in passing. This sword was completely translucent, especially the swordtip that seemed to be like water. A clear light flowed over the sword's body. With a look, he could tell it was an item out of the ordinary. This sword's name is Sublime Water. 5. Qingci, you always self-address as your servant. 6. Which actually makes you appear miserly. I feel it would be great if you addressed yourself as Qingci. If I become your big brother, I definitely will have you change that. Su Xing feigned seriousness. Qingci slightly smiled, but he did not know if she listened. Su Xing also took out one of the langia, and after both sides made their salutations. The next instant, Su Xing beautifully brandished a horizontal slash. Qingci flung the sublime water sword. The sword edge was like an unfolding ribbon. The sword's trajectory immediately became unfathomable, and a cold light skimmed past Su Xing's eyes. Even if Qingci was graceful, her attack method nevertheless far exceeded Su Xing's expectations. The sublime water sword transformed into a fairy. Su Xing retreated for the time being, blocking the sword light. A light at the end of the tunnel. Qingci's wrist shook. Shua. The sword edge raged with rainwater. The yellow sands were swept aside, and her sword chi was like a water dragon, shaking a dazzling light inside the yellow wind. Then it detoured past Su Xing's defenses from the most absurd angles. Suddenly, it wound its way back, rising and falling. The sword chi was erratic, attacking from an angle impossible to appear from. Su Xing leaned, and suddenly he disappeared from Qingci's eyes. Her brows creased, not showing the least bit of surprise. Even Su Xing had to endlessly praise this level of concentration. Little sister, take this. Su Xing closed in passing, langia slashing immediately afterwards. A crisp ring in the wind. When the sublime water sword touched langia, it suddenly transformed into a flexible net, and the sword tip bent and spun before Su Xing's eyes. A thin wound then bloomed. At the same time, Su Xing nevertheless already got close to Qingci's chest. Qingci did not change expressions. Her sword turned back, her beautiful eyes instantly bursting with a sort of rarely seen severity. The sword chi of the sublime water sword rolled out like a tide. The yellow sand and earth was shredded to pieces, but it tried in vain to swallow Su Xing. The latter rushed to keep away, and then his figure immediately swayed. Green light pierced through the sword chi directly at Qingxi. The spry long-skirted Qingxi did not retreat but rather advanced, directly receiving the attack. The girl's boldness and gentle appearance were completely inharmonious, however, in comparison to the Su Xing she faced, who had inherited battle doctrine. Qingxi honestly did not have any possibility of victory. A vacuum-like hurricane blew in the air. Bang bang. The sublime water sword's soft sword edge was not able to reveal her gentleness this time. Langya beat the back of Qingxi's hand, paining the girl. Immediately afterwards, Su Xing slightly exerted force, which sent the sublime water sword flying away. Qingxi lightly bit her lip, her left palm shoving out. How could she have foreseen that Su Xing seemed to have already knew she would? One hand was already laying in wait along the path of her left palm. By the time the girl extended her palm, he immediately seized her wrist, and then he pulled. Qingxi immediately lost her sense of balance. Her body uncontrollably toppled forwards. Su Xing's other hand nevertheless passed around the girl's waist. With this pull and hold, they seemed to dance a waltz. Qingxi's attack stance not only was completely undone, she seemed like a meek lamb tumbling onto Su Xing's chest. Any more fighting, and Buddha will be angry. Su Xing towered above her. This was even the first time the cool-headed Qingxi had been embraced by a man. Her cheeks were pink, and though she wanted to break free, her hands had been forced behind her. Feeling this man's strength, slight confusion suddenly appeared in Qingxi's heart. She softly whispered, "Your servant concedes defeat." "Little sister, do you still address yourself as your servant?" Su Xing smiled. "Is it possible to first release your ser, Qingxi?" Qingxi raised red clouds. Only then did Su Xing notice their current posture was a bit ambiguous. The girl nevertheless let her body hang horizontal. This pose outlined the girl's perfect flowing curves. Her jade peak seemed about to swell out her clothes, her jacket collar half exposed, the slightest bit of her valley, faintly visible. "I'm lacking in manners." Su Xing promptly let go. "I didn't hurt you, did I?" Su Xing asked out of concern. Young Lord Su Xing is even gentler than Qingxi imagined. Qingxi magnanimously smiled. Following a wave of her hand, the sublime water sword again returned to her hand. However, Qingxi is not accustomed to saying big brother. If young Lord Su Xing is not offended. Qingxi showed a troubled expression. "You're kidding, big brother and little sister are addresses. There is no need to mind." Su Xing waved his hand. "Does young Lord Su Xing think Qingxi will renege?" Qingxi's tone was gentle as water. "Qingxi shall address young Lord Su Xing as Lord Su." Qingxi wonders if that is possible? Lord Su. Why did Su Xing feel this sounded very much like Lord Husband? This is good. Su Xing chuckled. "Su Xing, you treat her too well." Sure, Yuan pouted. "Yuan, you are jealous. Big brother certainly must love Yuan dearly." And Suwen stifled a laugh. "This young lady merely feels this Qingxi is very scheming." Sure, Yuan cried in justice. "Yuan, it's all the same." Su Xing consoled. "Why does this young lady feel each of you are harboring evil plans?" Sure, Yuan did not understand. For this sort of thing, not even clear explanations would work. Qingxi had organized her feelings. She said, "Lord Su, Qingxi wonders whether or not you have found the mystery?" Hearing that Lord Su, Qingxi still was somewhat unaccustomed. "Let's test the mystery." Su Xing was not too certain. Qingxi opened her gem-like eyes wide. At this time, she saw Su Xing grab a clump of yellow sand. Qingxi did not understand what Su Xing wanted to do and only saw Su Xing extend his hand. "Give me your hand." "Lord Su, what are you doing?" Qingxi showed vigilance. "Just believe in me." Hesitating a moment, Qingxi still took hold of Su Xing's extended hand. The moment they held hands, it immediately made Qingxi's star generals grit their teeth. Su Xing pulled Qingxi into his embrace. Qingxi's expression appeared natural and unrestrained, but privately, she still took considerable guard against the opposite sex. Her left hand covered her plump chest, and she used her right arm to stick to Su Xing's chest so as to avoid being taken advantage of. If this was not indeed for being at wit's end solving the 4th level of the 7-floor stupa pagoda, How would Qingxi followed along with this man's whims? Then what do we do next? Qingxi asked. Su Xing snapped his fingers. His divine intent controlled the surrounding yellow earth. Under conscious manipulation, the yellow earth roller like a hurricane, increasingly voluminous. In the end, it seemed to have become an airtight barrier. Don't be afraid to get dirty, Su Xing warned. Qingxi was blank. Just at this moment, those yellow sands and earth pounced towards the two with a boom. Countless sand grains and clumps of dirt endlessly drilled into their bodies. Even Qingxi's body could not help but shudder. Su Xing's arms held her tight, making the girl bury her head into his chest. Using his hands to cover the opening at her collar, when she felt Su Xing's good intentions, Qingxi's heart was moved. The yellow sand very quickly wrapped the two into a fence. Then, those grains of earth seemed to combust into burning flames upon their skin. The scorching pain made Qingxi's hands violently clench tightly. The Qingxi that had yet to understand what was happening only felt that her whole body seemed to be aflame, an unbearable pain. The girl nevertheless clenched her teeth, not uttering a sound. The pain gradually lessened, and Qingxi's burning consciousness slowly returned. At this time, her whole body already collapsed, half powerless, dripping wet with perspiration, limp upon Su Xing's chest, extremely castigated. What was that just now? Qingxi panted. Her body powerlessness was not able to care that her own sensitive chest was intimately touching the man. I surmise it was nirvana. Su Xing looked around at the surroundings. Nirvana. Qingxi rested for a moment. Recovering her body's strength, she left Su Xing's embrace, somewhat stunned to hear this word. Su Xing hinted to her. Qingxi looked. At this moment, that yellow earth, wind and sand had already become a lush plain, gently swaying with blowing wind. This is the 5th level of the 7-floor stupa pagoda. Buddha compared all living things to soil. For Lord Su to be able to think of such nirvana is truly exceptional. Qingxi slightly smiled. Qingxi was even brighter than he had imagined. Su Xing originally had wanted to explain, but it seemed that was actually unnecessary. That's because I honestly couldn't think of anything else. Su Xing acknowledged honestly. Excluding all possibilities is also a way. Qingxi looked thoughtfully at Su Xing and the 7-floor stupa pagoda's 5th level was another world compared to the 4th level, with green grasses like a cushion and a clear and boundless sky. Su Xing usually first thought of a Buddhist scripture, but in the end he did not find anything and looked inquisitively at Qingxi. The latter appeared not the least bit aware. The two decided to first look around this place. This quiet atmosphere did not persist for too long. Upon an astral tool, a glint suddenly came from the horizon, vaguely with the sounds of clashing weapons. Su Xing and Qingxi looked at each other, and immediately guided the astral tool to rush over there. Very quickly, they saw this sort of scene. They saw a prairie that extended 1,000 li, and they spotted 4 or 5 monks brandishing staffs, vajra parasols, eternal wheels of life, and other magic tools currently in a siege. Su Xing had originally thought these monks perhaps were doing something related to comprehending the mystery, but upon closer inspection he was gravely mistaken. The one being sieged was unexpectedly a woman. That woman wore a Chan-style golden blouse, her long, rolled-up hair like waves. The woman was as indifferent as a statue of Buddha. She somersaulted around these monks, moving about unrestricted. Chan Xian, Su Xing and Qingxi nearly blurted at the same time. The two stared at each other, discerning each of their shocks. Lord Su also knows Chan Xian? Qingxi was very complex. I wouldn't say no. We had a brief connection, and I heard her speak of Chan technique. Su Xing affirmed. Qingxi did too. Qingxi gracefully smiled, clearly an excuse. Su Xing did not pursue the issue further, leisurely nodding his head. Those are monks of the Vajra Law Temple. What's the meaning of this? Su Xing wrinkled his brow slightly unhappily. For this many monks to surround one woman honestly was unreasonable. Let us go take a look. Before Qingxi had even finished speaking, Su Xing had already gone first. Star General that has deluded herself into obtaining the holy monk's supreme Chan technique. You know not the immensity of heaven and earth. Tactfully withdraw quickly, we shall let you go this once. A tall monk shouted. Chan Xian's eyes did not have anger, did not have resentment, nor did they have the least bit of interest in answering. The Vajra temple monks only felt they had received humiliation. They raised every sort of Buddhist weapon to strike, but Chan Xian's body techniques could be labeled as excellent and nimble. No matter how tightly they encircled her, she faced them with absolute calm. 2 crescent moon staffs brought an astral wind in a left and right pincer attack. The woman yielded, deftly stepping onto the crescent moon's spade. And then she fluttered like a butterfly. She nimbly dodged away. Watch these artifacts. The Vajra Law Temple's monks saw that their attacks unexpectedly could not even touch the hem of Chan Xian's clothing, and fury rose from their hearts. Multicolored rays of light rose from alms bowls, lanterns, prayer beads, and every sort of power was displayed. These artifacts were controlled with divine intent. To dodge was not something body technique evasion could easily achieve. The artifacts were about to strike Chan Xian. Just at this moment, Chan Xian's beautiful figure unleashed several afterimages and phantoms that were indistinguishable from the real one. Unexpectedly, they were identical. The artifacts struck air, and graveness flashed through the eyes of the Vajra Law Temple's monks. Just as they were about to use some trick, suddenly, 5 bolts of purple dragon serpent lightning dropped from the sky, destroying these 5 artifacts completely. The divine intents of the monks hurt. They yelled, lifting their heads and spotting a man and woman flying over. The man flicked his fingers, and purple arcs of lightning immediately jumped out. The monks promptly erected every sort of defensive measure to protect themselves, but even so, the purple lightning striking their bodies still made them suffer nearly into vomiting blood. Could it be you monks aren't men? To bully one woman, don't you feel like you've lost face? The newcomer naturally was Su Xing. Su Xing looked down on them. Qingxi's tone also had a rare iciness. Great masters are angry. Do you still have any qualification to hear the Chan technique? Qingxi advises great masters to quickly set down your blades, turn your heads and see the shore. These monks were immediately very unsightly when they spotted Su Xing and Qingxi. The two had cultivations of galaxy late stage and supercluster early stage that could firmly suppress them. This is Buddhism's affair. It does not concern you Azure Dragon Territory cultivators. If you wish to hear Chan technique, do not mind our business. The monks of the Vajra Law Temple shouted. Buddhism also has different types. Qingxi smiled. Different types? Little sister, you make it sound so pleasant. I feel that they are scum. Su Xing sneered. His figure flashed, descending in front of Chan Xian, and Qingxi followed after. Chan Xian, it seems we truly have a connection. Su Xing turned his head and smiled. Chan Xian's eyes were still quietly deep beyond compare. Faced with Su Xing's teasing, she did not reply. She merely glanced at Qingxi, as if she was somewhat bewildered at Su Xing's address for Qingxi. Be a bit more tactful and leave this place. Otherwise, your servant will be very happy to make you go see Buddha Western Paradise. Su Xing threatened back. This woman is a star general. How can we allow Buddhism's grand Chan techniques be profaned by Maiden Mountain's star generals? The monks angrily said. Maiden Mountain's reputation in the Buddha kingdom was not at all good. It was difficult to say that the reason was not jealousy. After all, Maiden Mountain only used 1,000 years' time, and already shook all 4 territories of Liangshan continent. Yet Buddhism's 3,000 Buddhist sects nevertheless could only withdraw to the Azure Dragon territory's most western corner. For the Buddha kingdom's people that worshipped Buddha West approaches, it was understandable that somewhat extreme Buddhist cultivators would not be fond of star generals contesting for Chan technique. Has all your cultivation of Buddhism been without conscience? Buddhists all say that all living things are Buddhas, that it is whoever that listens that has distinction. I feel you basically are inherently guilty in conscience. Know that you yourselves will never surpass her. Su Xing said. The faces of the Vajra Law Temple's monks were ashen. How could the great path of Buddhism tolerate the gesticulations of cultivators like you? Su Xing laughed. Did your servant's words hit a sore spot? Senior brother. He seems to be the man that spat at Buddha? A monk shouted. What? So it was a hoodlum like you that incited such a quarrel. The other monks were angry, and they pounced over. You overestimate yourselves. Su Xing waved his hand in passing. Auspicious purple clouds soared into the heavens. Purple Cloud True Star was far sharper than those blades, breaking apart all of the monks' weapons. The protective Vajra Buddhist lights around their bodies blocked it with difficulty. You must not break the vow of no killing. Chan Xian spoke in obstruction. If someone kills you, and you still espouse virtue, this is not Chan logic, that is bringing trouble upon yourself. Su Xing snorted disdainfully. His words made Shi Yuan and the rest chortle. It was a pity the others could not hear them. Chan Xian's deep tranquility showed slight astonishment. Qingxi's eyes had a strange glint. She watched Su Xing's expression with even more wariness and vigilance. Then not only do you bring trouble upon yourself, you also make yourself feel good about bringing about your own doom. Su Xing supplemented. The 5 monks had been battered, bruised, and bloodied by the purple cloud. However, they were worthy of being Buddhist cultivators. Even so, that tall monk still pointed in disbelief at Su Xing. You unexpectedly dare to disgrace Buddha. Su Xing laughed aloud. You're all still wet behind the ears at best, to unexpectedly dare compare me to Buddha. I feel you are the ones disgracing Buddha. Su Xing will make Buddha blow his top. Shi Yuan thought this was very funny. The monks still were angry enough to nearly spit blood. Qingxi and Chan Xian were completely silent. What a glib-tongued man. A rolling thunderclap sounded in the sky. A yellow-robed monk rolled over, riding upon a yellow cloud. He shouted, and the airflow shook every which way. A massive Buddha's palm imprint bore down upon Su Xing. Su Xing immediately used the heaven-suppressing stillness hand. The Buddhist palm and the purple chi hand struck each other in the air, giving rise to an ear-piercing noise. Purple clouds rolled, and the Buddha's palm shattered the heaven-suppressing stillness hand. Su Xing's chest sunk in. Blood rolled about, and immediately, he was forced back half a step. This monk's power was very strong. Ba sadhu sadhu. The yellow-robed monk descended the cloud, putting his hands together in prayer, using this to intimidate them. Great Master Jin Cheng. 2. The Vajra Temple monks were immediately delighted seeing him, and they promptly saluted. He was supercluster middle stage cultivation. Su Xing chuckled. That Buddha's palm just now was indeed powerful. The purple cloud True Star unexpectedly was completely helpless. Poor monk heard there was a star general that wished to profane the dharma of holy monk for noble truths, so poor monk immediately rushed over. Great Master Jin Cheng's face wore a slight smile as he stared at Su Xing. Never expected to hear this benefactor is also irreverent of Buddha. Not everything is a Buddha. It's all the same when you are selfish. Su Xing shook his head. Lord Su, are you injured? Qingxi was taken aback. A little cut. Su Xing wiped away the streak of blood at the corner of his mouth. Poor monk advises benefactors to quickly return to the Azure Dragon territory. Holy monk for noble truths is the supreme monk of our Buddhism. When Emperor Liang originally could not successfully obtain audience with him, could it be that benefactors feel they are more powerful than Emperor Liang? Return? With such an interesting mouth here, your servant still has not seen enough. Su Xing smiled. Qingxi covered her mouth. This man's mouth honestly was unforgiving. Great Master Jin Cheng's benevolent appearance was not immune from Su Xing's repeated mockery. As they say, Buddha still has fire. Great Master, this man basically does not put Buddha in his eyes. Again and again he disgraces our Buddhism. Honestly, we cannot pardon him. The tall monk endured the injuries of his whole body, enraged. But of course I wouldn't put Buddha in my eyes. Su Xing nodded. Before that monk could be proud of himself, Su Xing's next sentence made him fly into a rage. Buddha is to be used for veneration in the mind. I feel you merely use Buddha's name as a signboard to usurp his reputation. You. At this moment, Qingxi could not resist giggling. The girl was suffering unbearably to not laugh aloud. Speaking further is not good. Today allow poor monk to ferry you. Great Master Jin Cheng was absolutely calm. Su Xing had just thought of saying thanks, when suddenly, the always aloof Chan Xian blocked in front of him. This matter is because of me. These consequences will thus be assumed by me. Benefactor understands now, it is not too late. Great Master Jin Cheng's face was content. He was fully self-confident he could face off against these three people. However, if he could, to convince them to leave on their own was a meritorious achievement. What Benefactor Su Xing said was correct. You merely are cheats that usurp Buddha's good name. Honestly, you are the ones that shame Buddhism. Chan Xian's tone suddenly was dramatically changed. Great Master Jin Cheng and the other monks were stunned. Wind suddenly blew. Chan Xian already brandished a fist at them. Great Master Jin Cheng coldly shouted, "Just allow poor monk's dispassionate Vajrapam to experience the ability of the legendary Star General." That booming sound was ear-piercing. Time just passed in a flash. Great Master Jin Cheng's Vajrapam caught Chan Xian's fist. This supercluster middle stage Great Master had yet to shout a few words when suddenly, he only felt the powerful strength of the Vajrapam abruptly ebb. Immediately afterwards came the sound of the bones in his palm shattering. Great Master Jin Cheng violently spat blood. A powerful force directly crushed him, and his body was sent flying heavily away. Great Master Jin Cheng's whole body shuddered. He wanted to climb up. That face brimmed with terror, both his eyes seemingly about to pop out of his head from fear. He looked inconceivably at the tranquilly light as wind and clouds Chan Xian. His lips trembled, speaking not very nimbly at all. "You are heavenly solitary star." The Great Master Jin Cheng finally toppled onto the ground, with only a punch. Recollect the past 1,000 flowers 7 treasures platform. 1 flower, 1 leaf, 1 Tathagata. Unaware of Buddhist flowers of the past few days, they seemingly could shake the magic thunder of those days. The thousands of leaves of the large lotuses lay strewn across the 1,000 li of a blue plain, continuous into the thousands of li beyond. Each of the giant lotus blue leaves were replete, emitting a Buddhist aura. Even the Aratha of the Dharma Buddha Jili too would not help but chant upon seeing this. To be able to see with his own eyes the legendary, 1,000 leaves lotus flower measureless world, was exciting for even a 6th ancestor. Even Buddha Jili has said, the Buddhist's immemorial 7-floor stupa pagoda is honestly endlessly marvelous. A voice came from the side. A hardy and reserved monk calmly walked over. Great Master still void. 3. Aratha was immediately deferential when he saw this old monk, stowing away his contempt. The Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestor great sects altogether were the Void Mountain Secret Kshetra, Dharma Sect, Samgarama Temple. 5. Mirror Flower Nunnery. 6. Happiness Together Courtyard and the Stupa Saber Fast. 7. Aratha was proud because of his super void middle stage cultivation, being among the chiefs of the 6 ancestors. However, there was one above him, and that was the Void Mountain Secret Kshetra. This Buddhist sect was extremely mysterious, and the cultivation of the secret Kshetras presiding Great Master Still Void also had reached supercluster middle stage. Although they were of the same cultivation, Great Master Still Void cultivated the mysterious Nirvana Jewel Will 10,000 Lives Sutra. 8. Even Aratha felt pressured. Great Master Still Void has also come. The expression of the Dharma sect's Aratha was somewhat complex. Great Master Still Void slightly smiled and nodded. For this holy monk's passing of teachings, how could poor monk miss this? Meaning, if Great Master is able to obtain the holy monk's true teachings, perhaps you can break through those fetters and enter Supervoid late stage, henceforth birthing yet another holy monk inside Buddha Kingdom. Aratha seemingly smiled. Unknown whether or not that was mockery. Great Master Still Void was silent. Does Senior Monk Aratha not also have the opportunity to obtain the Great Way? Another old monk, dressed in a blue kasaya appeared. So it is Chan Master Jia of the Samgarama Temple. Salutations. The Buddhists greeted. Salutations. Chan Master Jia nodded. These words are not false. For the holy monk to pass on his teachings, any one of us Buddha Kingdom 6 ancestors can expand the influence of the Buddha Kingdom upon obtaining this supreme Chan technique. The holy monk also has the 5 dragons colored glass lamp. From then on, it would not be strange for the Buddha Kingdom to possess a transforming Star of Annihilation 6 ancestor. Aratha said. No truer words spoken, so this thing certainly cannot be given to outsiders. Aratha's words indicated. Poor monk has just found out that Great Master Jin Chung of the Vajra Temple has gone to kill a star general. Poor monk wonders if senior monk Aratha knows this? The Vajra Temple has always blindly followed your sect. Could it be because of this reason? Chan Master Jia Yi asked. For star generals to come pilfer the holy monk's Chan technique. Does Chan Master feel this should be expected? Aratha laughed aloud. The one who came is but that heavenly solitary star. This legendary star general perhaps honestly will obtain the holy monk's bowl and robe, the so-called unprecedented. How can this sort of matter occur? Great Master Still Void, what do you say? Umitba, everything follows karma. For some monks to protect the holy monk's robe and bowl, senior monk can understand. Is this all right? Hearing Great Master Still Void so sly and evasive, Jia Yi smiled and asked back. Any way it is put, there was a heavenly solitary star Lu Jishin in one generation signed a contract with the Void Mountain Secret etc. to participate in the star duels? This matter was the foolishness of the secret etc. Monks ought to take the world as an illusion. The mundane star duels actually are in violation of the orders of Void Mountain Secret etc. The previous masters do not recognize this. Seeing that the leading Great Master Still Void clearly was somewhat fearful and unfavorable toward star generals, Chan Master Jia Yi said no more. Aratha was somewhat happy, smiling and saying, precisely, Great Master Still Void is bright, everything follows karma. Besides the Mirror Flower Nunnery's Abyss Water Moon, and the Stupa Saber Fast Stupa, 9 and Senior Monk Extreme Happiness being absent, we otherwise could have simultaneously congregated at this time. Aratha thoughtfully said. Especially that Stupa, he definitely is very expectant of the Star General. They are also within the 7th-floor Stupa Pagoda. Perhaps they have already reached the 6th floor. Then everyone must not delay. One punch. Just one punch. The supercluster stage cultivator no longer could stand. The monks of the Vajra Temple were completely dumbfounded, scared into fleeing out of their minds. Su Xing was also slightly surprised. Immediately, he could not resist flipping out the birth treasure outline for a look. Star position. Solitary star name. Lu Jishin nickname. Flowery monk true name. Rank, 13th star weapon. Devil Sealing Crescent Moonchan 10 3-star, Star Beast. Withering Thriving Lotus Flower Beast 11 Realm. Matchless 7th stage innate skill. Meditative Mind / Monster Strength 5 elements. Earth Yellow rank special move. Arhut Boxing / Crescent Moon Spade, 12 dark rank special move. Heavenly King's Devil Sealing Chan technique, 13 current status. Null detailed materials. Not outside of expectations. She truly was the 13th ranked Heavenly Solitary Star Flowery Monk Hua Jishin. Her matchless 9th stage 14 not comparable to Wu Xiao's or Lining Mei's, but both innate skills were particularly eye-catching. Does she not have a true name? Su Xing curiously exclaimed. It was reasonable to say that if a star general self-disclosed their true name, only then would the true name appear in the birth treasure outline, but Lu Jishin self-addressed as Chan Xian. However, the birth treasure outline did not reveal anything like this. That Chan Xian was not at all a true name. Great Master Jin Chung very quickly disappeared from the 7th-floor Stupa Pagoda. Clearly, he had already left this pagoda, and Su Xing did not have interest in minding about the rest. Without asking, he sized up this solitary star flowery monk. A pity that Ing Mei and Xiao were not here. Poor nun has implicated benefactor. Solitary star Chan Xian put her palms together. No matter. If you can understand, then I'll be very gratified. Su Xing smiled. Never expected the monks of this place to tear up their face, to be so afraid of little sister Chan Xian. Qingxi's brows tightly furrowed, appearing like she had fought for Chan Xian on the behalf of justice. Chan Xian completely lacked any ripples. This is something Chan Xian ought to face. The solitary star's attitude actually appeared very good, not placing any of what happened in her eyes. Qingxi shook her head, nevertheless not recognizing this. Little sister Chan Xian does not know, but the Vajra Temple is one part of the Buddha Kingdom's Dharma sect. Their actions possibly are at the direction of the Aratha of the Dharma sect. These ancestors fear little sister's identity will seize the holy monk's robe and bowl. Fearing you will make things much more difficult. Perhaps the Buddha kingdom's other 6 ancestors do not necessarily recognize this. This 7-floor stupa pagoda appears more and more dangerous. Does little sister Chan Xian still wish to go? Chan Xing's calm eyes already were her reply. Qingxi has overthought. Lord Su, since you two know each other, shall the 3 of us travel together? How about it? Qingxi's eyes emitted a faint light. The gentle expression she showed Su Xing made Su Xing blank for a few seconds. Vixen. Sure, Yuan inwardly tooted. Since we have connection to meet once again, let's go together. Su Xing did not decline. The heavenly solitary star-flowery monk. Legend said she was a star general that could blossom the meditative mind lotus flower. Before he met her, Su Xing still had considerable interest, but seeing Chan Xian's resolute eyes, he knew a contract was perhaps an unattainable thing. She truly was completely focused on pursuing the meditative mind. However, Su Xing did not wish to give up. His thinking was no different from the beauties inside the star nest. If he honestly could not obtain the 5 dragons colored glass lamp, at the very least, the heavenly solitary star was an opportunity. The 3 of them swiftly flew. Practically from the start of the Stupa Pagoda's 4th level, the Stupa Pagoda's myriad void worlds already merged together with one another. Su Xing now was considerably longing for Wuxia. He wondered there the harm star pilgrim had gone to at this moment. Right, Chan Xian, do you know what Buddhist mystery this 5th-floor Stupa Pagoda has? Su Xing asked her. Chan Xian pointed her finger at something far away. Raising his head to look, on the horizon was seemingly a gigantic lotus flower hidden in the mist, even faintly discernible. This is, Su Xing choked. A world in a flower. Qingxi softly said. The sparks of clashing metal flew about. Figures disengaged. There was a monk with an exposed chest and a shaven head. The muscles of his whole body bulged, and seeing his glaring vajra, a fierce and vicious stance, his whole body was baleful. Upon first glance he seemed like a butcher, but if it was said his identity was Buddhism's 6th ancestor Stupa Saber-Fast Stupa, perhaps no one would believe it. Stupa Saber-Fast was Buddha Kingdom's great sect. The Dharma cultivated within its doors was particularly different. And its meditation, contemplation, comprehension, unempty and formless, their Buddhist secrets completely defeated their purpose. What the Stupa Saber-Fast cultivated, astonishingly, was slaughter saber technique. No mistake, saber technique. Buddha says, lay down the butcher's knife, become Buddha on the spot. But this Stupa Saber-Fast contrarily ran in the opposite direction. Although Buddha had said butcher's knife, that really did not mean a butcher's knife. Rather, it was every delusion and attachment, but the Stupa Saber-Fast cultivated delusions and attachment, breaking through from the extreme. Buddhism was myriad different sects, each claiming attainment of nirvana. The cause always was not important. What was important was the consequence. The Stupa Saber-Fast actually was determined to not fall short. The Stupa Saber rose above the others in Buddha Kingdom, becoming specialized in killing, attachment, delusion and developing a set of Stupa Saber techniques. Among Liangshan continent's sword cultivators, the Stupa Saber-Fast was considered the Buddhism most willing to meditate on Chan. And this Stupa was their genius, the sole supercluster late stage of the Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors, yet he could obtain his 6th ancestor position relying on his powerful saber technique. Never expected the renowned Wusong would unexpectedly desire that holy monk's Chan technique. Stupa's face had a scar. When he smiled, he very naturally brimmed with stubbornness. Battling with Stupa was not just anyone, but Wuxia. The cool and elegant pilgrim's attitude was biting cold, not uttering a word. Very good, very good. Poor monk just happened to want to use Stupa saber to ask for a lesson. Stupa's hands clenched 100-kilogram ape. 16. Although he did not initiate, the presence the ape emitted penetrated into bone. In Stupa's surroundings, the fresh grass was torn to shreds by his ferocious aggression. Wind tore at Wuxia's eyes, but when it neared her, the wind immediately was incomparably gentle. Your servant also wishes to experience the Stupa saber technique of Buddhism. to see whether or not it can cut out your servant's anger." The pilgrim's tone was faint. She allowed the sword's wind to blow, swaying her clothes, while she remained indifferent. "Watch this saber." Stupa's hands gripped his sword, and he leapt to slash. The épée slashed about, the sword chi being rolled into a severe hurricane that was thrown towards Wuxia, covering the heavens and earth. Wuxia's eyelashes drooped, faintly glancing at it. Wuxia's finger instantly disappeared underneath the épée. Fortunately, Stupa had meditated on close-quarters sword techniques. His reactions were extremely swift, and the épée changed its attack direction to his side. Clang! A crisp sound. Noble Frost Demonic Lotus bit onto the épée. "Lay down the butcher's knife, become Buddha on the spot." Stupa shouted. An intimidating might astonishingly met her. There was an enormous noise that shook the sky and earth, and the faraway thousand-petal lotus flower shuddered too. Killed her. Stupa sensed that there was already no more resistance under the épée. But immediately his complexion suddenly changed. Not good. Sword light bit into his flesh, splattering blood. Stupa promptly used an escape technique to create distance. Wuxia appeared from behind him, unscathed, the noble frost demonic lotus in her hand having just tasted the Buddha's blood. The harm star looked at the trails of blood on her double-ended sword and faintly said, "Lay down the butcher's knife, become Buddha on the spot. These words ought to be given to great master." Lay down the butcher's knife, become Buddha on the spot. These words ought to be given to great master. Wuxia lightly walked on top of the wind, the noble frost demonic lotus following its mistress' intent, and releasing a bone-chilling icy jeer. A sort of indistinctly faint killing intent circulated about the harm star's body. Stupa actually drew in a breath, his forelimbs ice-cold, as if he had fallen into an icehouse. So incredible! This was the legendary fiend star, the harm star Wusong. Stupa simply incredulous that he used the Stupa saber technique, and was unexpectedly unable to even touch her side. Furthermore, the opponent appeared to have been holding back, not even brandishing her full power. A kind of powerless feeling of defeat made Stupa very sullen. Unreconciled. Deeply unreconciled. As a cultivator specially cultivating sword techniques, he had always boasted as being the highest. The Stupa Saber Fast had used the Stupa Saber technique to raise their reputation in the world, but unavoidably, they still were unavoidably compared to star generals, and the results need not be said, only endless mockery and disdain, as well as Stupa venting until he was nearly dead. Although they were recognized as a great sect of sword cultivators that were looked up at, Stupa dreamed of defeating a martial general, a genuine star maiden martial general. It was precisely because his heart had this not in existence, that Stupa began to be incapable of breaking through the supercluster late-stage bottleneck, to enter the great realm of the cultivators, Supervoid realm. On this trip to the 7th-floor Stupa Pagoda, he had originally wished to borrow the holy monk's Chan technique, to undo the knot in his heart. He did not anticipate that a freak accident would land with an encounter with Wusong on the 5th floor. The pilgrim emitted from head to toe a sort of cool and elegant radiance that, with practically no consideration, could make all things in Liangshan continent understand her identity. Stupa also changed his aspiration. Compared to hearing that Chan technique, the Stupa Saber Fast was even more accustomed to comprehending the essence of the Stupa Saber and Buddhism's secret mysteries amidst endless sword fights. "Ah!" Stupa angrily shouted, turning incomparably frenzied. His épée was lifted like a piece of paper in his hand. The air in a range of several li was shattered. "Do you wish to become Buddha? Allow your servant to help you." The gale blew, lifting Wuxia's long hair. The woman's voice was unhurried, her wandering seemingly empty. Bang. Stupa Saber technique. Cut down obsessiveness. Stupa Saber technique. Cut down delusions. 2 Stupa Saber technique. Cut down evilness. 3 Stupa Saber technique. Cut down confusion. Cut. Stupa went wild, his Stupa Saber techniques every slash attack used in succession, each type of saber technique leaving people at a loss of what to do. It was precisely because of this unprecedented cut-down obsessiveness saber technique that even supercluster cultivators could be defeated by his hand. Wuxia was unusually indifferent enough to cause heartbreak. The pilgrim released, and the noble frost demonic lotus blossomed. A great expanse of black sword chi suddenly appeared, becoming black demonic lotuses that appeared from out of thin air around her body, simultaneously revolving, shooting in directions, carrying a terrifying energy. The air let out an intense whistle, and a black demonic lotus wind suddenly appeared in Stupa's surroundings. Under this wind's strong power, attempting to trap the wild animal, the Stupa saber technique was completely broken to pieces, like a hot knife through butter. But this was no more than Wuxia's appetizer. Without need for any chit-chat, her eyes shot a cold light. In this instant, Wuxia's graceful figure thus apparently disappeared. Bang! Her sword tip closed in, easily cutting apart Stupa's frenzy. This girl's toe stepped, directly kicking open Stupa's chin, and the monk was flung far away. Unresigned, Stupa flipped his body up, massaging his fractured mandible, smiling with complete fear. Wusong, watch poor monk's Stupa saber technique. Evil sea is boundless. 5. Stupa's eyes were red, and his flesh split apart as he spat blood. In Wuxia's eyes, regardless of how malevolent this monk appeared, how terrifying, he only had a sort of pitiful bluff posture. The Harm-Star Pilgrim basically did not place him in her eyes. A supercluster late-stage cultivator honestly did not have the qualifications to act as her opponent in close-quarters combat. But this did not hinder Wuxia's desire to sweep him aside like the hindrance he was. The fewer the cultivators pursuing holy monk noble truths, the better, no? This is what you asked for. The girl's mocking brows rose. Her fingers simultaneously rose. An ice-cold vortex suddenly appeared in the space between them. The temperature of the space plummeted, and the ice-cold whirlwind quickly enlarged, instantly slamming into Stupa's. Evil sea is boundless. The sword light soundlessly combined. The world stifled as if it was about to stop. Wuxia's body astonishingly appeared, and a cold to the extreme determination shot from her body directly into Stupa's chest. The girl's black, flowing hair was rolled into a graceful flutter by the whirlwind, her eyes flickering with a leisurely luster. Stupa was worthy of being Buddha Kingdom's #1 sword-cultivating Buddha. His épée directly broke apart Wuxia's attacking intent, instantly dodging. But at the same time the épée swept, Wuxia floated like a butterfly in a hurricane. Yet she lightly stepped onto his sword. Stupa flipped his sword, instantly cutting at the girl's neck. The girl's cloak fluttered, her body becoming a fluttering illusion. A bone-chilling sword tip suddenly split apart Stupa's neck. Blood soared into the sky. It was unknown when Wuxia's black sword had already clamped onto Stupa's neck, yet it slashed down. Just as she was about to behead Stupa, Stupa did not seem to mind that much. His empty hand directly grabbed the 3-star destined weapon. Fortunately, Buddhism had always emphasized cultivating the physical body. Although the palm of his hand was about to rip apart, he barely stopped the noble frost demonic lotus from cutting further down. Seizing that brief instant, Stupa promptly brandished his épée. Even if he could not cut Wuxia in two, it was also fine to repel her. A sneer. Wuxia flipped, one leg directly stamping on Stupa's face, shattering several of his teeth, dodging the épée's sweep. At the same time she descended, she again swept out sword chi. Stupa suffered it directly, nearly dying. Wuxia lightly descended, her sword tip sweeping aside that filthy blood. How was this possible? Stupa was incapable of believing the gap between them was so large. At this time, Stupa regretted pursuing sword techniques too much and not painstakingly cultivating magic weapons. The legendary star generals were without equal, and only magic weapons could secure an advantage. Will you leave yourself, or will you have your servant send you off? Wuxia set down a notice to leave. Great Master Stupa, this senior monk has come to assist you. Suddenly at this moment, a gold and red Buddhist aura appeared in the sky. A golden net plunged towards Wuxia, and on the golden net appeared celestial maidens in dance. 6. A scene of intermingling bliss. Even Wuxia was taken aback for a half-second by that scene of debauchery in front of her. Wuxia retreated, withdrawing several zhang. The golden net of dancing heavenly nymphs gave chase. Wuxia knew with a glance that gold and red light was happiness Buddhist light. That Harmstar's face was covered in frost, her sword slashing. She tore this light to shreds. Just as Wuxia was about to seize this chance to destroy that golden net, the opponent also did not dare delay, immediately withdrawing it. As expected of Wusong. Never thought that poor monks, heavenly nymphs lewdly mesmerize all things net. 7. Was incapable of dealing with you. The newcomer was Senior Monk Extreme Happiness. At this moment, he put a sinister stare on Wuxia. Great Master Stupa, are you alright? Senior Monk Extreme Happiness chuckled. Poor monk feels that Great Master Stupa is having difficulty, and thus has specially come to render aid. Many thanks to Senior Monk. Stupa put his hands together. Great Master Stupa, this Wusong Star General is but Maiden Mountain's #1. You cannot be careless. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness coldly grinned. Can Great Master Stupa still battle? Poor monk still can fight about. Stupa barely clung on. Wusong, you had better quickly leave this 7-floor Stupa pagoda. This is not a place you should have come to. Senior Extreme Happiness shouted. That you came is just perfect. Your servant shall help settle some inconveniences for Lord Husband. Wuxia was very calm. What, Lord Husband? The legendary cool and elegant Harmstar, the overlord of the previous generation. Wusong surprisingly has a Lord Husband? If this got out, it truly would be a joke. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness laughed aloud. Poor monks heavenly nymphs lewdly mesmerize all things net, had yet to use full power just now. In a moment, Wusong shall know its power. If you still persist in the wrong ways, poor monk will take your primordial een. 8. On the basis of your words, today, even Buddha will not be able to save you. Wuxia's tone was full of concentrated killing intent. The one to emerge the victor shall be the result. The tiny star general dares to be savage. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness shouted, his hands forming a seal. The heavenly nymph lewdly mesmerizes all things net, and a prayer bead simultaneously flew out. As expected, Happiness Chan light enveloped the words. Hundreds of naked heavenly nymphs made every sort of obscene pose and expression. So long as a person was only slightly not uprighteous of mind, they would be captivated by the lewd fantasy of those heavenly nymphs. That prayer bead was the magic weapon Senior Extreme Happiness was proud of, named the Extreme Happiness Bead. This bead emitting lasciviousness whirled around Wuxia's surroundings, forming an inescapable ceiling for bid dance. And just at this time, Stupa in tacit correspondence waved his épée towards Wuxia. The Stupa saber technique reached its peak, become Buddha on the spot. Wuxia leaned, tightly clenching her double-ended sword, not fearful at all. Just at this moment, endless mist-like green light surged forth just like a river, washing everything away. A spring breeze blew by, and immediately, those obscene illusions were successively destroyed by this clear light. Losing the suppression of the heavenly nymph phantoms, Stupa's expression greatly changed as he immediately halted his attack. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness was greatly startled, for his own life-cast magic weapon was unexpectedly broken. To think of bullying my wife. You monks must want to die without any corpse left, right? A man's chilly voice dropped from the heavens. Hearing this voice, Wuxia immediately put down her guard, an odd warmth flashing across her heart. The newcomer was precisely Su Xing's wife. Have these two monks been bullying you? Su Xing seriously asked. Lord Husband need not worry. Wuxia cast him a sidelong glance. What? You are the Harmstar's Lord Husband. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness and Stupa were shocked. If you're done being surprised, go see Buddha. Su Xing's figure suddenly flashed by, his speed unexpectedly even quicker. Stupa completely had no strength to resist, and was stuck in the stomach by a punch, his internal organs turned back to front. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness once again used the magic weapon. Heavenly nymph lewdly mesmerizes all things net. This magic weapon was indeed powerful. The Happiness Chan light filling the skies was unstoppable, but Su Xing only easily waved the miraculous Bodhi tree. That limitless clear light was like a drizzle. His magic weapon's obscene debauchery was immediately left with no place to hide. The miraculous Bodhi tree. Senior monk extreme happiness screamed. Su Xing sneered. A world in a flower. The miraculous Bodhi tree. Impossible. Why would you have such a thing? Senior monk extreme happiness shouted in shock. His eyes had both hatred and the glint of zealous envy. Su Xing actually did not feel he was surprised. The Bodhi originally was Buddhism's holy tree. Prehistoric spirit treasures forged from materials like this naturally were what Buddhists loved the most, however. How would Su Xing have the inclination to chat with them? Immediately he called forth Heaven Tearing and Langya. The 24 flying swords intersected, making senior monk extreme happiness tremble with fear upon seeing it. Although Buddhist cultivators often trained their physical bodies and were bright with Dharma, the reason they could only hole up in the far western corner of the Azure Dragon territory naturally had a logic. Buddhist cultivators cultivated Sarira as their life-cast items, not flying swords. In terms of abilities, this was a massive detriment. Originally, Ancestor Extreme Clarity had used Galaxy Late Stage, and could contend against Wuxia, Lin Yingmei and other great star generals other than using the miraculous Bodhi tree because he still had flying sword abilities as an asset. Compared to the Azure Dragon territory's cultivators, though Stupa of the Buddhist cultivators was known as a Buddha that cultivated the sword, if he truly was pit against a star general he was practically overwhelmingly weak. When Senior Monk Extreme Happiness saw that Su Xing raised the powerful flying swords and even had the miraculous Bodhi tree in hand, he immediately had the urge to flee. Then this urge immediately became action. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness threw out the heavenly nymphs lewdly mesmerize all things net. He no longer wanted this life-cast magic weapon, and he only hoped it could obstruct the two. He appeared very clear that to face Wuxia and her lord husband, fleeing was a very difficult matter. His abandonment was wise. The heavenly nymph lewdly mesmerizes net, and the two colors of gold and red flashed. Immediately afterwards, they became threads, interweaving along all sides into a giant net that dropped down. Hundreds of perhaps naked, perhaps thinly clad beautiful girls like fairies emerged, each stroking their hair coquettishly, making charming dances. Their jade thighs spread open, their jade butts stuck high up, and they all were in wonderfully varied and myriad seductive poses. Those girls outwardly appeared to refuse, yet they clearly had desire. Their eyes had a roaming gleam, and their mouths also emitted a faint, rippling voice. Entering the sea of consciousness, anyone else would be dry of mouth and tongue. Their eyes scarlet, the yang fire of their dantian inflamed with passion. This was the first time Su Xing had seen such a bizarre magic weapon. For a moment he was shocked, and the girls inside his sea of consciousness blushed even more. Su Xing immediately seized the miraculous Bodhi tree and swiped several times. The heavenly nymph lewdly mesmerizes net's charm light successively was washed away, and became ordinary red and golden threads. When Su Xing saw, he once again used the weapon disarming scroll, taking these threads in. However, at this time, Senior Monk Extreme Happiness had already escaped far away, with pursuit impossible. Thinking to himself this was somewhat of a pity, Su Xing again directed his gaze to the other Buddha of Buddha Kingdom, Stupa. Stupa's épée was sent flying by Wuxia. The double-ended sword directly pressed against his neck. If you dare kill me, Buddha Kingdom Stupa saber fast definitely will be unable to coexist. Buddha Kingdom's millions of citizens definitely will become enemies with you, Stupa shouted. Death was near at hand, and still, he would die without repent. Su Xing had a face of, how long has an idiot like you been worshipped every day to have broken your brain? Who do you think are, to be worthy of Buddha Kingdom shedding tears for you? I feel that once you die, the disciple of your sect that will obtain your leadership role, would be happy first. Judging by your appearance, you normally do a lot of bad things. Killing you is perfect for delivering justice on behalf of heaven. Don't make too much noise. Su Xing, you're so mean. Sure, Yuan laughed hard enough for tears to nearly roll out. Stupa's complexion changed. Clearly, what Su Xing said honestly was possible. Lord Su, what is the meaning of this? Qing Tsi and Chan Xian urging on an astral tool soon arrived. stunned on sight by the scene before them. Lord Su Wuxia's brows wrinkled, and her eyes slightly narrowed, coldly glaring at Su Xing. Wifey, you misunderstand. This is little sister Qingxi. Su Xing explained. Wuxia harumphed, looking at Qingxi with complete distaste. When Qingxi saw Wuxia, her eyes let out a shocked glint. This oddity very quickly disappearing and recovering her cool. Just what is happening? Chan Xian asked. Nothing at all. These two monks lost their minds and wanted to kill my wifey An. Su Xing stared ice-cold at Stupa, his lips curling into a cold grin. However, it's a pity his skill isn't as good. The flying swords began to stir, just about to slash for the kill. Do not kill me. Poor monk can inform you of one of the miraculous Bodhi tree's secrets. Stupa's face was pale, no longer with his might from just now, promptly pleading for mercy. What secrets does the miraculous Bodhi tree have? Su Xing stopped the flying swords. It is better for benefactor alone to hear this. Stupa looked at Wuxia and the others. This is my wife. This is my little sister. This is my friend. If you have something to say it quickly. Su Xing coldly said. I have no patience whatsoever for people like you who assail my wife. Fine. How did you come about your miraculous Bodhi tree? Seeing Su Xing's eyes were increasingly gloomy, Stupa immediately said. The 5 dragons colored glass lamp is refined from prehistoric materials, but it nevertheless lacks something similar to act as the lampwick. This miraculous Bodhi tree is precisely that lampwick. If you light it, you can accomplish the supreme Buddhism. It is said you can comprehend a prehistoric Chan technique. This was the first time Su Xing had heard of this news. Stupa acted as one of Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors. This word still were somewhat believable. The miraculous Bodhi tree is the 5 dragons' lamp's lampwick? Su Xing looked at this fine branch in his hand and darkly wrinkled his brow. Yes, or so poor monk hears, but Bodhi still Buddhism's holy item. This bit is not false. Su Xing looked at the girls. It is not strange. Bodhi indeed is Buddhism's holy item. Qingxi said. However, what use is this news? The 5 dragons colored glass lamp is not in my hands. Su Xing sneered. Benefactor Su Xing, it would be better to let him go. Chan Xian was disturbed, speaking. The heavens above have quite the virtue. Since he has already come to the realization, we ought to give him a chance. Lord Su, what little sister Chan Xian says is true. Since this stupa is Buddha Kingdom's 6th ancestor, regardless of what happens, killing him will only bring Lord Su trouble in Buddha Kingdom, making enemies for no reason. Qingxi analyzed. Su Xing once again looked at Wuxia. The harm star snorted. She stowed her sword and turned her gaze away. Stupa's heart relaxed. He looked at Su Xing, his expression appearing to be that of a yes man, his heart nevertheless secretly insidious. After leaving, he definitely would leave this man dead with no corpse left to avenge today's humiliation. Just as he thought this, suddenly, Stupa's neck felt cold. By the time he had returned to his senses, he only saw his own head leave his body. From his headless body, blood bubbled forth like a fountain. For a time, Stupa was stunned. My wife already said today even Buddha cannot save you. Su Xing sneered. Stupa's headless corpse tumbled to the ground, and thus one of Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors turned to dust like this. Wuxia was taken aback, her expression full of complexity as she looked at Su Xing. Qingxi and Chan Xian were stupefied, not expecting Su Xing would kill this Buddha Kingdom's 6th ancestor after declaring so. Lord husband, you should not have acted. This sort of person ought to have been left to your servant. To stain Lord husband's hand, how will it do to be rebuked by the holy monk? Wuxia was somewhat pained. If that holy monk feels that your servant killing this kind of person is wrong, then he is gravely mistaken. Whether your servant does not respect this Buddha, or whether your servant does not listen to his dharma, both are fine. Su Xing interrupted. The girls instantly had nothing to say. Although this very minor incident made the atmosphere between them not as relaxed as before, with regards to the heavenly solitary star Lu Zhishan, every time Su Xing acted honestly was greatly outside her expectations. Undoubtedly, he went against Chan ideals, but each time, She could not utter even half a word. The tranquil Chan Xian did not know when she had become confused. Confused? Qingxi also pondered deeply. She looked at Su Xing and Wu Xiao's intimate posture, and could not discern anything, unable to understand any of it. Actually, Wu Xiao's attitude was much better than it was previously, no longer bothering about from where Su Xing made a little sister Qingxi, or a little sister Chan Xian. Stepping on the flying swords, her hand was clasped by Su Xing in front of the sister, and she was pulled up to him. That Chan Xian is the heavenly solitary star? Wu Xiao was very surprised to hear this name. Wu Xiao's attitude also improved a lot due to the heavenly solitary star. After all, among Maiden Mountain's 108 star generals, Harm star Wu Song, majestic star Lin Chong and solitary star Lu Zhishan had always got along very well. Their natures had the imprints of favorable impressions for each other. But meeting for the first time this heavenly solitary star flowery monk Lu Zhishan, Wu Xiao still was very surprised. Only upon hearing Wu Xiao's identity for the first time did Chan Xian's eyes flash a slightly pleasant surprise, but after seeing Su Xing, it immediately was extinguished. Apathetic, she honestly had a Chan aura that made even Wu Xiao slightly uncomfortable. I just killed one of Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors, and I let that senior monk extreme happiness escape. If what Stupa said about the miraculous Bodhi tree is true, then I fear there will be big trouble. Su Xing inwardly said. Senior monk extreme happiness inevitably would take revenge, and the Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors still had the other 4. Each were characters not so good to provoke, and among them was the chief, Chan Master Still Void, whose magic energy was limitless and formidable. Your servant actually has implicated Lord Husband. Wu Xiao wrinkled her brow and said, between us, what is there to implicate? As for the 4 other ancestors, I actually want to see what these self-proclaimed Buddhas of the Buddha Kingdom look like. Wu Xiao smiled. Suddenly, Su Xing turned his head towards Wu Xiao and drew near. He whispered, Wifey, we haven't been intimate for a long time. What? Wu Xiao's pupils shrunk. I'm saying ever since that time we faced Guansheng, we haven't kissed. What nonsense are you thinking of? Wu Xiao's tone was flustered, for even Lord Husband to turn into a simple you. Su Xing lamented. For such a cool and elegant beauty like Wu Xiao to be beside him calling out Lord Husband, no man could possibly remain aloof. Although Wu Xiao called Su Xing Lord Husband, she truly had not thought of such a thing before. That time she kissed him also was passion, unrestrainable emotion, the effect of the environment. For her to kiss him during normal times, Wu Xiao felt this practically was more terrifying than battle. It seems I still haven't done enough as your Lord Husband. Su Xing was helpless. Wu Xiao recalled Su Xing had protected her just now, and her heart softened. Tenderly she said, what Lord Husband said is extremely true. Between Lord Husband, this is inevitable and right. However, now is the pivotal point for Lord Husband's meditative mind lotus seed. We absolutely cannot be distracted. To save little and lose much. How can I save little and lose much with my own wifey? Xiao, these words of yours aren't right. Su Xing retorted. Wu Xiao knew she could never get the last word in, thus she ignored him. In short, wait until after this. Your servant shall do as Lord Husband pleases. Those last words were squeezed out from between the gaps of her teeth with exceptional blushing and difficulty. Can I really do anything I want? Su Xing winked, letting his imagination run wild. Wu Xiao glared at him. How could she not know what filthy things this man was thinking of, and her ear burned. Su Xing laughed aloud, teasing her no longer. Liked it. Is this really the elder sister Wu Xiao who wanted to kill Su Xing on first sight? Shi Yuan asked in shock from inside the star nest. The thief star received a knowing laugh. No way, this young lady is falling farther and farther behind. Next time, this young lady definitely will eat Su Xing. Elder sister Suan, quickly help this young lady refine some pills. On a faraway hill, 2 people appeared. One was a woman dressed as a Buddhist nun, but her clothes were unable to conceal her body's curves. Beside her was also a man, however, he concealed his face, covered his hair, but from his attire, He clearly was an Azure Dragon territory cultivator. Their cultivations were unfathomable. The honestly exceptional stupa of the Buddha's 6 ancestors has unexpectedly been killed. This is the legendary star General Wusong. Formidable as expected. The bhikshuni softly exclaimed, again gazing at the man beside her. The man's eyes were absolutely calm, appearing not too concerned. How can a star general be provoked? He has only himself to blame. She is truly brazen, unafraid of Buddhism's retaliation. Could it be that Abbess Watermoon will take revenge? The man smiled. The woman had a pious appearance of aloofness. How could the Mirror Flower Nunnery participate in the affairs of the Stupa Saber Fast? True, we had better first go to the next floor. The holy monk's propagation of Dharma appears to be very rowdy. The man faintly smiled. And, looking at the spectacularly gigantic 1,000-leaf lotus flower before him, Su Xing was stupefied. How was this a flower? Clearly, it was a gigantic monster that had entrenched itself into the world. A world in a flower. Su Xing mumbled. The 5th floor of the 7-floor stupa pagoda. A world in a flower was this level's mystery, but now, it appeared far from being that simple. Looking at those lotus flowers emitting Buddhist light, opening and closing, if a monk walked in, that lotus flower would immediately shut tight. At this time, Su Xing saw at least several hundred monks flying over from every direction. It seemed that after the 5th level, the 7-floor stupa pagoda's world's various celestial words already connected together. Monks arrived in succession and chatted around the 1,000-petal lotus flower, endlessly shocked at this gigantic Buddhist flower. Buddha Kingdom has 3,000 Buddhist sects, yet this 1,000-petal lotus flower has millions of worlds. It seems this 6th floor will not be passed through luck. Jingxi sighed. Each of this 1,000-leaf lotus flower's petals should be the stepping stone to the next level, but among the countless paths, there were only 3,000 exits that could lead to the 6th floor. Furthermore, the moment one monk entered, the entrance to that lotus flower would immediately shut. The second person need not think of entering, which also meant that the stupa pagoda's 6th floor only had 3,000 people. And to see through this lotus flower's passageways, a person absolutely could not get by on luck that brought them through the previous floors. They were required to rely comprehension talents that had already superbly pondered profound Dharma cultivation. Also, they were to be pious to Buddha, for under Buddha's guidance could they enter the 6th floor. What this trial tested was precisely piety, and the meditative mind that had accumulated over a long period of time. Difficult. As far as people like Su Xing who had entered Buddhism in this fashion, they need not think of being lucky again. Wifey, can you see the passageway? Su Xing asked. Wuxia concentrated for a moment. In the end, she shook her head. The 1,000-petal lotus flower prajna world was Buddhism's supreme ability. Those lotus flowers successively opened and closed, and Wuxia could not discern any gaps. Chan Xian. Wuxia subconsciously gazed at the heavenly solitary star. As the heavenly solitary was the sole one among them that had comprehension of Buddhism, the flower monk was clearly the only one that could have a chance of success. Chan Xian pondered for a moment. I can sense several, but I cannot distinguish the real from fake. Big brother, don't you have the heart like mirror soul technique? You can try it. And Suwen reminded. Su Xing suddenly understood. How could he have forgotten this? Let me try. Su Xing said. You can discern them? Chan Xian was taken aback. Just a try. Su Xing smiled. He concentrated completely on operating the absolute sincerity soul technique. In Su Xing's eyes, the notion of that 1,000-petal lotus flower totally disappeared. In the void, each lotus was a world, each emitting a unique light. Some were deep, others shallow. Some were dim, others bright. Buddha said, a world in a flower, a bliss in a trunk of wood, a paradise in a blade of grass, a tathagata in a leaf, an ecstasy in a grain of sand, a pure land in a place, a destiny in a smile, a tranquility in an idea. 2. This incantation still reverberated in Su Xing's mind. Slowly, the hearts like mirror already broke free of the sea mountains not as mountains realm and returned to the true sea mountains as mountains realm. The 1,000-leaf lotus flower began to manifest each of their own characteristics. Finally, Su Xing found several lotus flower worlds that led to the 6th floor. Found them. Su Xing breathed deeply, dispelling the soul technique. You truly found them? Chan Xian was not too convinced. And however, each of these 1,000-petal lotus flowers can only admit one person. I'll tell you the entrances, however. I can't be certain about their authenticity. If you believe me, then we can try. In short, I won't trick you. Su Xing said. Wuxia naturally did not object. Qingxi hesitated, then nodded. Chan Xian thought for a moment. Chan Xian will first see, then decide. Su Xing was not surprised the heavenly solitary star would decide like this. He pointed out several lotus flower entrances for them to see. When the heavenly solitary star saw they were the same as she had thought, she no longer hesitated. Then I shall take the first step. Chan Xian put her hands together. And Chan Xian scuttled in. That lotus flower's Buddhist light expanded, sucking her in, and then it closed. Wuxia nodded at Su Xing, and she also entered one of the flowers. Lord Su truly has continued to make Qingxi pleasantly surprised. If Qingxi may be so bold as to ask, from which sect does Lord Su hail, whether it is Buddhism or Taoism? Lord Su seems highly competent. Even your flying swords are rare in the world. Qingxi smiled. I'll tell you when you become my wifey. Su Xing laughed. Qingxi perspired. This man had already recognized her as his little sister, yet he unexpectedly still could get a leg up on her. Qingxi entered another flower, and seeing them leave, Su Xing also did not hesitate. The Buddhist light sucked him in, and immediately, the spirit of his whole body seemingly was suddenly enveloped in a Buddhist aura. The noise of a hubbub transmitted up the avenue. The customers and cultivators inside the restaurant all successively rushed out, gazing in the direction of the 7-floor stupa pagoda. Then they looked at the countless monks successively appearing in a flash. Again, so many people have been eliminated. There can't be too many left inside, right? I hear the 7-floor stupa pagoda honestly is a celestial world on each floor, endlessly profound. What a pity I could not see it with my own eyes. Several people discussed in succession. These trials are so formidable. If I could obtain the holy monk's Chan technique, I could die without regret. A Buddhist said, You idiot, do not have such grand dreams. Could it be you did not know that even Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors have gone? How can these Chan technique be comprehended by us? Another person chided. Exactly. Just as this was said, suddenly a sort of Buddhist voice of bereavement sounded out. A sea of people became frantic, fearfully crying out. Everyone was affected by this mournful sound. He has died, the great master has died. There was a furious and sorrowful moan reverberating everywhere. What is happening? Lin Yingmei sat on the floor above, furrowing her brow as she gazed at the chaotic crowd. This Buddhist voice truly was very loathsome, merely noise inside her ear. Lin Yingmei activated star magic to block it out. Wu Xinjie used wind from empty cave. A moment later she showed shock. Elder sister, what has happened? Lin Yingmei curiously asked. It seems that the Buddha Kingdom's 6th ancestor stupa of the Stupa Saber Fast has died inside the 7-floor stupa pagoda. Has a Buddha Kingdom's 6th ancestor died? Lin Yingmei's face was unperturbed. And the corpse has already emerged, and his death was wretched. Wu Xinjie covered her mouth, restraining a smile. However, this stupa was not very impressive in Buddha Kingdom. His cultivation was the inharmonious stupa saber dharma. There are complaints everywhere, and it seems many are secretly cheering. That Buddhist voice just now. That was transmitted by the stupa saber fast's elder. It seems he is administering religious rites for stupa. Wu Xinjie's wind from empty cave truly was convenient. In no more than the blink of an eye, she had become clear on the entire sequence of events. At this time, Wu Xinjie's mind was full of the angry roar of who killed Stupa. After all, he was one of Buddha Kingdom's publicly recognized 6 ancestors. Anyway it was put, his death was a very big blow to the Buddha Kingdom. The other sects that were on very good terms with the Stupa Saber Fast already began to join in a united front, but many sects took aim at the open 6 ancestor position left by Stupa's death. The Buddha 6 ancestors originated in Buddha Kingdom's famous Platform Sutra of Sixth Patriarch, selecting the 6 ancestors from the Buddha Kingdom's 6 strongest cultivators, representing the glory of Buddha Kingdom. Now that one had died, naturally, that would make many Buddhist sects poke around. After all, sects that could become a 6th ancestor could ascend to the heavens in a single bound within Buddha Kingdom. Would a 7-floor stupa pagoda trial kill someone? Will something befall young master? Lin Yingmei's tone was slightly worried, not at all out of doubt in Su Xing's ability, but purely because she was concerned about the one she loved. Perhaps the originator of this is young lord himself. Wu Xingjia's eyes rolled, stealing a smile. Ah! Lin Yingmei was stunned. Just now, I heard someone personally witness that the murderer who killed Stupa was a cultivator. An Azure Dragon territory cultivator? Lin Yingmei whispered. Thinking of this, she realized that those from the Azure Dragon territory that could participate in the 7-floor Stupa Pagoda were not very many. Having gone on this long, many had been eliminated, and for those that had reached this step to also be able to kill a Buddha Kingdom 6 ancestor, Su Xing indeed was the greatest possibility. It seems young lord is more vigorous than we thought. Wu Xingjie was indifferent to Stupa's death. And Lin Yingmei gazed at that disorderly crowd. Your servant wonders how young lord is. Since he has already battled with a Buddha Kingdom 6 ancestor, the situation inside must not be too hopeful. With Siyo they do not need to worry. Wu Xingjie pondered. However, we cannot sit idly in this place. And, let us seize this chance to help young lord settle this minor convenience of Stupa. Wu Xingjie looked at those monks seemingly about to devour Su Xing, inwardly laughing with disdain. How shall we settle? Since Stupa has died, we had best go instigate the other sects, have them strive bloodily for this. Wu Xingjie said. We will take advantage of the fact that the other Buddha Kingdom 6 ancestors have not returned. We will spread some rumors, make those sects have internal strife, doubt each other, and by the time the 7-floor Stupa Pagoda finishes, the Stupa Saber Fast will become something impractical and inferior. Is this all that is needed? Lin Yingmei still was slightly not too convinced. Wu Xingjie waved her hand, facetiously smiling. Rumors always have a root cause. As the ancients say, wine does not come from an empty cave without reason. Yingmei, the degree of belief people have for rumors will surpass your imagination, so that is why we have that saying, rumors will only be stopped by the wise. Lin Yingmei nodded. So long as she could settle trouble for young master, be it rumor or violence, the majestic star would not hesitate in the slightest to do so. Passing through a world in a flower, Su Xing's legs stepped on air. The surrounding scene disappeared, and he landed on a rock suspended in midair. Su Xing looked around. As far as the eye could see, there were 3,000 stones floating about. Each stone clearly corresponded to an entrance from a world in a flower. The air of the 7-floor Stupa Pagoda's 6th floor had ceased its flow. The sky was a heavy, dark cloud, as if it was about to smother him. Su Xing looked down and immediately drew in a breath. Below was a vast sea of evil. As far he could tell, it was limitless. Surprisingly, there was no border. He basically did not need to guess. Su Xing immediately knew what trial the 6th-floor celestial of the 7th-floor Stupa Pagoda was related to. The Sea of Bitterness. Buddhism's most famous concept of worldly suffering. The Sea of Bitterness is boundless, yet a turn of the head is the other shore. Even a person who completely did not understand Buddhism had heard of this phrase. Lord Su. A gentle voice called. Su Xing glanced out the corner of his eye. He spotted that a blue-clothed woman had already appeared on a rock nearby. It was no one else but Qingxi. Then Wu Xiao and Chan Xian successively walked out of rocks in a range of 100 meters, and even further away, the high monks of the Buddha Kingdom's sects appeared in succession. Already, half of the 3,000 paths had appeared. Suddenly at this moment, they heard a frenetic voice. He spotted a senior monk attempt to use a tool to fly past the Sea of Bitterness. Who would have thought that the moment his foot left the stone, his figure immediately would plunge down, falling into the Sea of Bitterness. Others had wanted to do the same, but they also likewise disappeared. Su Xing wrinkled his brow and tested something. As expected, he had only just left the stone when a formless force pushed against his whole body, pressuring him down towards the Sea of Bitterness. It seemed this checkpoint required passing this Sea of Bitterness. Wuxia, Qingxi, and Chan Xian gathered around Su Xing unwittingly. The three women had already treated Su Xing as their backbone. This is the Buddha Kingdom Sea of Bitterness? The 7-floor stupa pagoda honestly is mysterious. Wuxia exclaimed. Is this checkpoint only to cross the Sea of Bitterness? Qingxi pondered. What is benefactor Su Xing doing? Chan Xian saw that Su Xing was endlessly turning his head around, confusing her. Oh, didn't Buddha often say the Sea of Bitterness is boundless, yet a turn of the head is the other shore? Su Xing replied as he turned his head. I'm testing whether or not this is the theory. The three women were speechless. In the end, Su Xing's neck was sore. This Sea of Bitterness did not have any signs of activity, nor could he see any indication of the 7th floor. It would be good if things were so simple. Qingxi smiled. Su Xing actually hoped for things to be a bit simpler, for example, like a world in a flower. It seems we can only cross this Sea of Bitterness. The Sea of Bitterness reached past their knees, which was not too deep. The color of the water was pitch black, complete with an indescribable heaviness. The other monks already entered the Sea of Bitterness and began to walk towards the other shore. Each monk chanted Dharma as they walked. Their heads emitted a Buddhist light, a state of solemnity. Compared to Su Xing's shamefulness, they had a manner of crossing a Sea of Bitterness. Slowly wading through the Sea of Bitterness, they walked seemingly for hours. Su Xing was unable to hold back his temper. Seeing Chan Xina had taken after the other monks and was similarly chanting Dharma as she traveled forth through the Sea of Bitterness, he curiously asked, Chan Xian, why are you dedicated to Dharma? I heard Xinjia say you won't even participate in the star duels? Is comprehending the meditative mind truly so important? Is this important? Chan Xian asked back. Su Xing paused, briefly unable to reply. Indeed, what he felt was important perhaps was not necessarily important in the eyes of others. How could others decide the so-called worthiness of something? Without the heavenly solitary star, the other sisters will rejoice. Qingxi softly said. Anyway it was put, the heavenly solitary star was the most capable of the star duelists in the 7 stars assembly. Without this powerful foe, generally this was a good thing. However, as far as those martial generals at the peak of power were concerned, they felt it was a pity to lack an opponent as powerful as the heavenly solitary star. Just as Chan Xian was about to speak, suddenly at this moment, the heavenly solitary star's eyes were dazzled, as if she had met with a lightning strike, nearly falling over. The Su Xing standing beside her supported her, startled. What is? Before the words could leave his mouth, at the same time, he abruptly felt a deathly pain sweep over his whole body. With a snap of the fingers, Su Xing only felt his own consciousness rapidly shrink. Then the entire world completely disappeared. His consciousness had been compressed into a seed, and was being squeezed by the Sea of Bitterness. A sort of completely powerless feeling immediately attacked his mind. Su Xing promptly used the heart-like mirror extreme sincerity soul technique. Fortunately, when he practiced the chaotic tail escape, he had already tasted the world's strongest pain. And with the assistance of the heart-like mirror, the seemingly unbearable pain lasted just several seconds. Su Xing promptly recovered his clarity. However, Chan Xian was not so quick. Her brows were tightly locked, her expression bitter, currently persevering with great effort. He saw that Wuxia and Qingxi were exactly the same. A long while after, they slowly broke free, taking deep breaths. Could this be the Sea of Bitterness side effect? Su Xing was curious. Just now that may have been. Chan Xian wrinkled her brows, her sentence half finished. May have been what? Everyone was curious. Chan Xian calmly said. May have been 8 distresses. 8 distresses. Su Xing rubbed his temples, somewhat unclear. Wuxia then explained. Birth, age, sickness, death, parting with what we love, meeting with what we hate, unattained aims, and the 5 skandhas too, are the 8 distresses that Buddha spoke of. Wifey, can you explain clearly? Su Xing humbly asked for guidance. Buddhist philosophy was boundless as the sea. Although he had stepped into Buddhism temporarily, there was still much he completely was incapable of understanding. These 8 distresses that Buddha spoke of were the 8 types of painful consequences that all things received in samsara. Let alone that Buddhism was very famous even in Liangshan continent, everyone regardless of cultivator or normal citizen understood a little. For this reason Wu Xinjie did not give Su Xing this supplementary knowledge. In actuality, according to the meaning of the text, it was very easy to understand. Birth was the pain of crying upon being born. Let alone that age, sickness, death, and parting with something loved were things each person would experience from youth to old age. Sickness and torment, the death of relatives and loved one were not far from this sort of hardship. Meeting with what was hated described people that complained about evils, who asked to be far away from those, yet gather on the contrary. The unattained aims described of everything in the world, whatever the mind loved, could be asked for yet not obtained. Finally, the 5 skandhas indicated the 5 aggregates of form, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, the aggregation of all the hardships of humankind. After hearing the explanation, Su Xing understood, somewhat impressed with this Buddhism. As expected, Buddhism looked at all things very thoroughly. No wonder it could become a type of belief. Chan Xian, your meaning is that after passing this boundless sea of bitterness, we may suffer through Buddhism's 8 distresses of samsara? Su Xing wrinkled his brow. Thinking carefully, that sudden sneak-attacking pain just now actually had a sort of birthing meaning. The sea of bitterness is borderless. The 8 distresses of the body will only become more and more serious. Even some senior monks that have obtained the way will find it hard to break out of the sea of bitterness. All benefactors, Chan Xian still feels that to move away from this first is better. Chan Xian put her hands together, sincere and earnest. Her words really did not have any contempt, nor was there any boast. For Buddhist cultivators to cross the 8 distresses, there was a vast samsara that would not necessarily achieve genuine freedom. Let alone Su Xing, even Qingxi only half understood Buddhism. Although Su Xing's meditative mind was indeed surprising in the heavenly solitary star's eyes, the sea of bitterness was vast. If one did not have strong willpower to pursue the Dharma, this sea of bitterness absolutely could not be crossed. Rather than meet with that sort of worldly suffering, it would be better to let go. Just this. Su Xing laughed. Chan Xian was confused at Su Xing's easygoing nature. I never expected this 6th floor celestial would be so simple. Relax, to speak of enduring bitterness, I'm already accustomed. Su Xing shook his head, not in the least concerned. I actually want to see just how deep this Buddhist sea of bitterness is. Sadhu. Chan Xian put her hands together, silent. Qingxi Xiao, do you want to return first? Su Xing asked with concern. He had cultivated this heart-like mirror absolute soul sincerity soul technique, and opportunely long already did not fear these 8 distresses, but Wuxia and Qingxi were not so relaxed. How can your servant flee? Wuxia did not hesitate at all. Qingxi also slightly nodded. Since we have already reached this 6th floor celestial, there is no reason to shrink back, is that not so? The girl's smile was very gentle, like a spring breeze caressing his mind in the sea of bitterness. Yes. The group then slowly traveled through the sea of bitterness. The entire void world became muddled, gloomy, and oppressive. The deeper into the sea of bitterness they went. The incorporeal heaviness was increasingly powerful, slowly near the point of a sort of feeling of despair. Just as Chan Xian had foreseen, after the distress of birth, their complexions withered and their strength drained with age. The sickness of their organs, limbs, and bones as well as death followed along. The expressions of the 3 women also turned extremely painful. Even the heavenly solitary star seemingly struggled in the boundless sea of bitterness, unable to move a single step. Countless cries of fright, pain, and even despair floated above the deathly stillness of the sea of bitterness. Not only the girls, the rest of the Buddhist monks that had reached this stage began to break under the torment, sinking one after the other into the sea of bitterness. Under this sort of atmosphere, Su Xing's heart-like mirror also received an unprecedented test. When the time came for parting with what was loved, Wuxia quite uncharacteristically grabbed Su Xing's hand, her fingernails seemingly digging into his flesh. That appearance made Su Xing's heart break when he saw it. Very clearly, parting with what was loved was more intense than the previous 4 distresses. Qingxi also slowly could not continue. She immediately waved her hand, releasing an old bell, knocking it beside her ear. That old, clear sound barely allowed Qingxi to maintain clear-headedness. Su Xing also was slightly hurt to see this. His other hand grabbed her, as if it was life-saving duckweed. After Qingxi grabbed hold of Su Xing's hand, she firmly held fast, unwilling to let go. Again seeing Chan Xian read incantations, her hand holding the prayer beads, the girl using upright dharma to cross these 8 distresses indeed was somewhat more relaxed than Wuxia and Qingxi. But as time dragged on, Chan Xian also became increasingly pained. When Su Xing saw this, he advanced several steps forward, using his shoulder to support her. Chan Xian opened her hazy and unfocused eyes, not at all wanting to rely on Su Xing. Su Xing nevertheless could not care that much anymore. He silently exercised the soul technique, and usage of the heart like mirror absolute sincerity soul technique finally reached its limit. The boundless sea of churning evil finally settled. Su Xing's heart like still waters realm also reached the Wuxia and Qingxi to his left and right. The agony of the 2 girls slowly weakened, and even Chan Xian could not help but involuntarily be attracted by this profound tranquility, no longer resisting. In the middle of the sea of bitterness, 1 man and 3 women seemingly melded into one. The sea of bitterness surrounding them inconceivably cleared and become transparent. When the 3 women returned to their senses from the sea of bitterness, red clouds flew across their faces. They hastily left Su Xing's side. That was a bit improper. Su Xing was embarrassed. He knew Wuxia would not mind, so long as he showed apologeticness to Chan Xian and Qingxi. Lord Su truly is. Qingxi did not know what she had ought to say. Chan Xian looked at Su Xing, who was unexpectedly calm in the boundless sea of bitterness. To even still be able to help them was simply inconceivable, and she immediately whispered, "Just who are you?" Waves appeared on the surface of the sea of bitterness. A white-haired monk took up his 9-ringed staff, releasing a bright light. The Chan staff manifested a golden-winged hawk that spread its sky-covering wings and stirred a billowing gale, causing pain in the eyes. In this old monk's surroundings were 2 others, one dressed in a golden kasaya, the other with his chest exposed. The pair's cultivations were entirely exceptional at around supercluster middle stage, more or less. Their chanting grew loud, a Buddhist aura lingering, and several Buddhist tools became mighty and fierce. The Dafan Temple, Wisdom King Sect, Chan School. What is the intent of the 3 Chan masters? Chan Xian's expression sunk. Having ferried across these 7 distresses of the boundless sea of bitterness with great difficulty, now, having encountered this 8th distress realm, 3 of Buddha Kingdom's supercluster ancestral Chan masters suddenly hopped out without warning and obstructed their front. Using Buddhist incantations and magic weapons, a tumultuous momentum. Benefactors, the holy monk's Chan technique is a holy object of our Buddha Kingdom. Star Masters and Star General inherently should not stick their hands in this matter. We ask for benefactors to quickly return. The Chan Master Great Enlightenment of the Dafan Temple put his hands together, his expression courteous and deferential. But below the surface was a rejection without the slightest hesitation. The masters of the Wisdom King Sect and the Chan School also coldly stared at them. After this, 2 Chan masters approached from the sea of bitterness. There was no need to say they were all supercluster ancestor cultivation, each the principle of a Buddhist sect. 5 supercluster ancestors inside the 7-floor stupa pagoda's sea of bitterness surrounded Su Xing, Wuxia, Qingxi, and Chan Xian in the blink of an eye. These Chan masters normally spoke of cultivating Buddha natures, of ferrying all living things, but if things actually involved the Buddha Kingdom's holy objects, those temperaments and Chan comprehensions were fleeting. 5 Chan masters really is giving face. Su Xing laughed. This battle formation of more or less peak supercluster ancestors in the Buddha Kingdom had more or less assembled for the sake of thwarting his plans. Su Xing did not believe them. If this place did not have the traces of the Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors, how could Su Xing have possibly ever believed them? Your servant wonders which 6th ancestor made you surprisingly give up in the sea of bitterness, and instead obstruct us? Are the great masters honestly willing to do something like helping someone else make a bridal gown? Chan Master Great Enlightenment, and the others looked at each other in dismay. Su Xing had guessed correctly. Before his group had come to the Sea of Bitterness, Aratha suggested that the Chan Masters thwart Heavenly Solitary Star Chan Xian. The Heavenly Solitary Star was known as a legendary star general that was also unique and unmatched in Buddhism. Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors had difficulty giving rise to ill feeling, and for this reason, they wanted to have others force Chan Xian out of the 7-floor stupa pagoda, let alone that the Dafen Temple and the other Chan Masters were all overseers. Even the words uttered by a Buddha Kingdom 6 ancestor had never needed consideration. Besides, even the Chief Great Master Stillvoid also vaguely approved. The Chan Masters were without a way out, however. Aratha and the other 6 ancestors hinted that they would propagate to them the Holy Monk's Chan technique. It was for this reason they would be perfectly willing to do this. After all, these great masters also understood that the Holy Monk's Chan technique was not something they could go comprehend. Chan Master Great Enlightenment's tone sunk. Benefactor, poor monk is also thinking of you all. Buddha says, all living things follow an unattainable true realm of Dharma, only recognizing the mark of all dharmas, the reason for distinguishing the sickness of attachment. We ask that benefactors do not cling to the Holy Monk's Chan technique, nor the 5 dragons colored glass lamp. We also ask you leave this place. That's pompous. Su Xing sneered. Everything of the body is reflected in the mirror. All is empty as flowers and a moon in the water. Confused about arguments, the disciple is angry. Another Chan school Chan master also warned them without much Chan logic. Is this the meditative mind Dharma that you seek, Chan Xian? Su Xing seemingly smiled, directing his gaze at the Heavenly Solitary Star. This Dharma is not my Dharma, Chan Xian was calm. Well spoken. Su Xing struck his palm, praising. The Chan master's expressions were sharp. Facing the Heavenly Solitary Star and others, they did not dare be careless. Persuasive at the same, every sort of ability and artifact already were fully charged. Benefactors are incapable of abandoning thought. How could you possibly seek the holy monk's great way? If you insist on refusing, poor monks will ferry benefactors in this sea of bitterness. Do the great masters insist on driving us away? Qingxi lightly smiled. We are not driving you away at all. Rather, we are thinking of benefactors. This is not an item benefactor can obtain. Excessive insistence will contrarily hurt yourself. Your mouth bursts with lilies, however, so mediocre. Wuxia coldly said. The harm star instantly acted, losing all interest in conversing with these great masters. The moment Wuxia made her move, Su Xing and Qingxi also no longer hesitated. Chan Master Great Enlightenment, and the others long already had defenses. Practically from the start of Wuxia's attack, a brewing power smashed through. Heavenly Dance Treasure Wheel. 2. 9-ringed Staff of the Akala Wisdom King. 3. Sound of Thunder Sutra. Chan Master Great Enlightenment chanted. A 6-paths treasure wheel appeared, its multicolored light radiating everywhere. Upon it were interweaving incantations of Brahmanistic scripts and Buddhist characters. The spiritual power of the 6 paths was carved upon it, flickering with light. It also vaguely had Asuras and Arhats, a yellow turban strong man. That 9-ring Chan staff also had bright Buddhist light. Showing itself off, the 9 rings jingled, releasing a Buddhist hawk, its pressure seemingly squeezing the great sea of bitterness very violently. Besides this, the other 3 Chan masters' Sound of Thunder Sutra, and others also were abnormally powerful. With 5 supercluster Buddhist cultivators mounting a union attack, even a super void stage cultivator would not necessarily be able to handle this. Even if the legendary star generals were any more powerful, this was only the 3rd phase after all. The powers and Buddhist aura of the 5 great Chan masters immediately pressed down without any gaps. A range of 100 li in the Sea of Bitterness was suddenly enveloped within. The oppressive Sea of Bitterness world drizzled at that time with various Buddhist light, changing the atmosphere. The other shore of the Sea of Bitterness was a small island. There was a set of stone gates, and in front of the stone gates sat a yellow-browed boy. Era the Great Master Still Void, Senior Monk Extreme Happiness, and Chan Master Jiayi stepped foot onto the shore in succession. The 8 distresses of the body was also abnormally difficult for these Buddha Kingdom 6 ancestors with peak cultivation. However, in the end they had endured the trial. As expected of Great Master Still Void, the 8 distresses truly was not the least bit useful against Great Master. Era the laughed aloud, praising him. Great Master Still Void was aloof, calm as water, only staring at the gate of the shore. Only when everyone who is capable of scaling the shore have arrived will this gate open. The yellow-browed boy indifferently explained. Great Master Still Void bowed his head in understanding, sitting in meditation to the side. Boom! A dazzling Buddhist light suddenly flashed above the Sea of Bitterness. Immediately, several of the ancestors sitting in meditation had their gazes drawn away. Era the happily said, "This truly is too good. If I do not enter hell, then who will enter hell? Truly, your servant must thank the great masters. This heavenly solitary star will not be able to come." Era the you made the other great masters go face the heavenly solitary star? Chan Master Jiayi's expression sunk. Great Master Jiayi, why do you say these words? Chan Master Great Enlightenment, and the others grasped the realization of if I do not enter hell, then who will enter hell? And have gone to prevent the holy monk's robe and bowl from falling into Maiden Mountain's hand. This is a meritorious deed. Do you wish to discuss how to act? Era the was also nonchalant. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness agreed. What Era the says is true. Chan Master Jiayi shook his head, shutting his eyes in contemplation. However, star generals are not easy to handle, and there is also that harm star and star master. Poor monk actually is somewhat anxious for those great masters. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness was grave. He had fought with Wuxia and the others and naturally knew that 5 supercluster ancestors would not necessarily be able to seize the advantage. It was even possible they possibly could lose the whole chicken over a bit of rice. Era the smiled in disagreement, bowing his head towards Great Master Still Void. This matter is thanks to Great Master Still Void. What do you mean? Senior Monk Extreme Happiness asked. The 5 great masters have carved their flesh to feed the hawk. Even if they cannot handle the star general, so long as the heavenly solitary star makes a move, she will lose the qualifications to succeed the holy monk's robe and bowl. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness Chan nature was not high. He clearly did not understand. What this Sea of Bitterness tests is a hardship. Buddha says, the Sea of Bitterness is boundless. Turn your head and there is the other shore. Lay down the butcher's knife. Become Buddha on the spot. Since we have ferried across the Sea of Bitterness, if in the Sea of Bitterness one takes up angry karma, they will not have the qualifications. Yellow-browed boy, what poor monk says must be. Era the laughed aloud. That boy indifferently answered. Precisely. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness struck his palm, then wiped his cold sweat in passing. Wonderful, truly wonderful. He originally had thought to seize the Sea of Bitterness as a chance to fight Sushing. Fortunately, he knew he was not an opponent. Otherwise he would have made a serious mistake. This is but what Great Master Still Void inadvertently leaked. Era the laughed. The 2 words inadvertently leaked were very intriguing. Great Master Still Void is worthy of being the chief of the Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors. Obtaining the holy monk's robe and bowl. Obtaining the Great Way. This is imminent. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness bootlicked. Great Master Still Void did not care one bit. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness laughed out of embarrassment. Happiness Monk, you truly are stupid. Have you not seen that Great Master Still Void has borrowed a blade to kill someone, out of not wishing to stain his own karma? Your boot-licking has licked his ass instead. 5. A mocking voice resounded. They saw the Mirror Flower Nunnery's abyss water moon, and a yellow-clothed person walked onto the shore. The derisive laugh was from the one in yellow clothes. Due to the hood concealing him, They could not see his appearance, but they could imagine his jeering expression. This yellow-clothed man's words were especially daring. The moment he spoke, he offended both Senior Monk Extreme Happiness and Great Master Still Void. The Senior Monk Extreme Happiness that just happened to be annoyed bubbled with rage. However, thinking of the sea of bitterness karma, he forcibly suppressed his anger. Humph. Great Master Still Void opened his eyes, shooting a beam of light, seemingly displeased. A cultivator of the Azure Dragon territory. When Aretha saw the yellow-clothed person, he immediately showed dissatisfaction towards Abyss Watermoon. Abyss Watermoon, how could you bring an Azure Dragon territory cultivator here? Does he have the qualifications to come to this Stupa Pagoda Pure Land? This is one of Poor Nun's good friends from the Azure Dragon. Today, Poor Nun has specially brought him to pay a visit to Buddha West Approaches. There is no other purpose at all. Abyss Watermoon explained. This benefactor spoke off the cuff just now. This matter will be forgiven with an apology. Aretha looked down on the other party. The yellow-clothed man laughed. The Buddhist 6 ancestors are slick and sly, as expected, and you wish to act a good person. Are you selling a favor to us too? The plans in his heart having been revealed by the yellow-clothed man's words, Aratha's expression was very unsightly. The Dharma sex Buddha nearly wanted to make a move, when he similarly barely suppressed his fury like Senior Monk Extreme Happiness did upon thinking of the sea of bitterness karma. Azure Dragon territory cultivators are fond of taking advantage of misunderstandings. Man, 6, if you can get within 3 chi of your servant will immediately leave this 7th-floor stupa pagoda. How about it? The yellow-clothed person laughed. These words were practically a naked provocation. Brazen. Aretha laughed. Practically the moment the yellow-clothed person finished speaking, he pounced at the yellow-robed person. But just when he approached the 3 chi mark, there was suddenly a resistance that stiffly forced Aretha outside 3 chi. He was unable to move an inch closer, and the complexion of the Buddhist 6 ancestor greatly changed. If you are unable to come within 3 chi, you will go call off those belligerents. How about it? The yellow-clothed man put both his hands behind his back, the epitome of calm. Aretha was humiliated, activating his Vajra Dharma characteristic. But regardless of how hard he tried, that range of 3 chi was like a celestial moat, completely impregnable. The yellow-clothed man yelled in seeming rebuke, sending Aretha flying. The ancestral masters alongside Great Master Still Void one by one felt disbelief. To be able to make the Super Void Aretha completely unable to fight back. Only a Super Void late-stage Great Cultivator could achieve this. Aratha's fury turned into shock and caution. What adept is this benefactor? Great Master Still Void respectfully asked. Do not tell them. The yellow-clothed man was bored. Abyss Watermoon was without a choice, but her eyes clearly told the rest of her compatriots. It was best to not provoke the yellow-clothed person. The group was silent, astonished within their thoughts. Since you have lost, are you not going to invite that Star General over? Your servant actually is very curious. The yellow-robed person said to Aretha. Humph, when did poor monk ever promise you? Aretha merely pretended to not have heard. The yellow-clothed person shook his head, very disappointed. Because this Azure Dragon territory cultivator had arrived, the Buddha Kingdom 6 ancestors on the other shore that originally had a relaxed atmosphere immediately felt very unsettled and odd, heavy as a mountain, more oppressive than the sea of bitterness. Actually, the yellow-clothed person seemed indifferent. The originally arrogant and egotistical Aretha and Senior Monk Extreme Happiness did not say anything more, only focusing on meditating on reciting scripture nearby. Calming their minds, receiving the final trial, that former pride of not allowing that holy object of Buddha kingdom to touch the fingers of others had been turned into a clownish joke before overwhelming might. Not long after, another monk reached the other shore. Everyone opened their eyes. Great Master Shen Hui, you have also come. Great Master Still Void bowed his head. The other 6 ancestors were all exceptionally deferential. Great Master Shen Hui was Cold Tang Kingdom's state teacher, assisting Emperor Tang. His cultivation was Super Void middle stage. If he was in the Buddha Kingdom, He was a character equivalent to a sixth ancestor chief. It was only because that he was to assist Emperor Tang declare Dharma that he left the Buddha kingdom. Inside Buddha kingdom, he could be promoted to a character truly like a holy monk. Great masters are all here. Great Master Shen Hui slightly smiled and put his hands together. Upon seeing the yellow-clothed person, he showed a surprised expression. He evidently felt the yellow-clothed person's power, also deferentially saluting. Yellow-browed boy, right now everyone is here, should we not be leaving? Aratha asked. There are still some who have yet to ascend the shore. The yellow-browed boy shut his eyes. Who else is there? Aratha was confused. He gazed at the sea of bitterness, practically unable to see any Buddhist cultivators that were ferrying across the sea of bitterness. After all, without the cultivation and endurance levels of a Buddha Kingdom 6 ancestor, how could an ordinary person cross this borderless sea of bitterness? The yellow-browed boy pointed at that measureless Buddhist aura, which was precisely the place the heavenly solitary star and cultivators were dueling. They have already polluted their karma too, in the sea of bitterness. This is what you said, they have lost the qualifications. What are we waiting for? Aratha's tone was heavy. Naturally there is karma. 3. The yellow-browed boy answered no more. It seems your plan was not so perfect, ha. The yellow-clothed man derisively laughed. Aratha's expression was unsightly. Shifting the camera shot back to Su Xing's side, when the 5 supercluster ancestors simultaneously attacked, that honestly was a change in the atmosphere. Earth-shattering, violent waves were stirred in the sea of bitterness. Under such an attack, even if a star general could block, they would be forced to use full power. Just at this moment, a yellow book soared into the air. This book flipped open, and a brown airflow bubbled out. A seeming heavenly canopy enveloped Su Xing and the others within. That brown heavenly canopy looked easy to break, but regardless of whatever powerful ability the Chan masters used, their star energy seemed to sink into a great ocean, disappearing without a trace. Earth Book of Empress 2, Chan Master Great Enlightenment was shocked. Why would he have this sort of spirit treasure? The Chan masters had sinister gazes. With a glance, they discerned this Earth Book surprisingly already evolved into a prehistoric spirit treasure. The Earth Book flowed with an aura that was like an impenetrable wall, absorbing every one of their attacks. Right now, it isn't too late for regrets. Su Xing was expressionless. He had not yet given Empress 2 a psychic communication. Otherwise, she would have frightened these old monks to death. 5. Since this is so, even more reason to not allow the holy monk's bowl and alms to fall into their hands. Chan Master Great Enlightenment screamed. The other hesitant Chan masters immediately nodded. They stowed their powers, surrounded Su Xing and the others, not making a move, but they did not have any intentions of regret. They made clear they wanted to waste the magic energy of Empress 2's Earth Book. If you won't make a move, then I won't be polite. Su Xing thought, glancing at Wuxia. The harm star understood tacitly. You cannot act. Chan Xian suddenly shouted. Chan Xian, what are you saying? Su Xing was bewildered. If you pollute the sea of bitterness karma, you will lose your qualifications. Chan Xian calmly said. What? The sea of bitterness is boundless, yet a turn of the head is the other shore. Lay down the butcher's knife, become Buddha on the spot. This sea of bitterness tests the body's 8 distresses. If you make a move, you will pollute your karma, and this sea of bitterness will be uncrossable. Chan Xian's explanation was the same as Great Master Still Void's. Su Xing and the others were immediately stupefied upon hearing this. Worthy of heavenly solitary star flowery monk Lu Jishan. This sea of bitterness mystery was seen through with a glance. Pity that you are a star general of Maiden Mountain, otherwise, you truly would have a connection with my Buddha. Chan Master Great Enlightenment chanted Amitabha. Could it be that because Jishan is Maiden Mountain's star general that there is no connection? Chan Xian questioned. Maiden Mountain uses the star duels to sow calamity and chaos in Liangshan continent, and thus is an evil way. How can my Buddha have a connection with such an evil way? Chan Master Great Enlightenment replied matter-of-factly. What sophistry? Wuxia retorted, about to act. Whatever sea of bitterness karma there was, the harm star basically did not care. Suxing pulled her back. Lord husband. Wuxia was confused. Suxing's face was like frost. He raised his head and coldly asked Chan Master Great Enlightenment. Great Master said the star duels were an evil way, but that is a lie. Then poor monk asks you, are you evil? Are you righteous? Chan Master Great Enlightenment pointed at Suxing. Suxing sneered, but did not answer. Evil always is evil, righteous always is righteous. Chan Master Great Enlightenment shallowly smiled. I don't think so. Suxing teased. What perspective do you have? Suxing pointed at Chan Master Great Enlightenment, also asking the same question. Are you evil? Are you righteous? Chan Master Great Enlightenment was taken aback. Of course we are righteous. The other Chan Masters proudly answered. Suxing turned a deaf ear, only looking at Chan Master Great Enlightenment. Chan Master Great Enlightenment clearly was more intelligent than the others. Slowly, without saying anything, his expression was very focused. He looked at Suxing, somewhat unable to fathom him. On the surface, Suxing merely asked him the same question, but the inside logic nevertheless was full of great wisdom and knowledge. The so-called for an evil person who speaks of the right way. The right way is also evil. For a righteous person who speaks of the evil way also becomes righteous. Right and wrong were merely separated by a thought. Evil? Righteous? If anything, this was a question of preference. Qingxi had not yet understood while Wuxia actually vaguely understood. Chan Xian was even more shocked, and she looked at Suxing. While ferrying across the sea of bitterness, she felt Suxing's identity was inconceivable. Now this question that made a Buddhist Chan master unable to reply lifted great waves in Chan Xian's heart. Indefinitely vacillating, a long while after, Chan Master Great Enlightenment sighed. As expected, benefactor has connection with my Buddha. Wisdom. Poor monk is ashamed of his inferiority. Poor monk shall not obstruct benefactor any further. Chan Master Great Enlightenment put his palms together, sincerely regretful. The other great masters were dumb as wooden chickens. Chan Master Great Enlightenment, what is this? Do not forget, we are to prevent the holy monk's robe and bowl from falling into the Star General's hands. Great Master, how can you be confused by evil? Chan Master Great Enlightenment heaved a deep sigh. Fellow monks, poor monk has been questioned by this benefactor. Poor monk knows there already is no more meaning in obstructing him. Poor monk thus shall leave. Buddha has a saying. It will do to naught, but also it will not do to naught. 6. Poor monk thus takes his leave. After speaking, he profoundly cupped his fist at Suxing. That expression seemingly the attitude of a student towards his teacher, which made the other great masters stupefied. Immediately afterwards, Chan Master Great Enlightenment left this place in the blink of an eye. After Suxing put his hands together for Chan Master Great Enlightenment, he was expressionless. He stared at the remaining 4 people. If great masters persist in the wrong way by treating us as evil people, the way of evil, then precisely it is your own heart that has already fallen into the way of evil. Your servant asks that great master quickly realize the truth and leave. Such a glib tongue, no wonder you dare to spit at Buddha. The great masters furiously said, Today, thou must cease wanting the holy monk's robe and bowl. Suxing shook his head, very regretful. Great masters persist in the wrong ways, making your servant disappointed. Umph. The 4 supercluster ancestors scoffed, completely lacking fear. They honestly did not fear Suxing would make a move. So long as Suxing and the others made a move, they would pollute their karma, and their objective would count as fulfilled. Great masters must know. As far as great masters' current conduct is concerned, Buddha has a saying that just happens to be of benefit. Suxing smiled. Out of the corner of his eye, he sized up the 4. Due to Chan Master Great Enlightenment leaving, the 4 monks each stood at 4 corners to trap Suxing, but the distance between each was considerably wide, which was an opportunity. It seems you understand much about my Buddha. Poor monk actually wishes to hear what great logic you can speak of. The tone of the Chan school's Chan master was very disdainful. Then you must listen carefully. Su Xing looked around. The monks did not dare be careless, but they were still very curious. Just at this moment, Su Xing pointed, and the Earth Book of Empress 2 suddenly flashed with yellow light, transforming into a beautiful immortal. This immortal immediately waved her long sleeve at the Chan masters. Hey! Su Xing suddenly appeared behind the Wisdom King's secret sect monk. The speed was faster than the blink of an eye. Courting death. The Chan school's great Chan master Long had readied his defense. Regardless of whether Su Xing acted or not, his purpose would have been fulfilled. He turned around, both his palms attacking Su Xing's hand. The sound of thunder erupted, and Buddhist light filled the sky. Su Xing nevertheless did not act, merely flashing on by, avoiding the Chan school great master's sound of thunder sutra palm technique. Great master, careful. Just as the Pratoda school great master was about to pursue, he suddenly heard a fellow monk give out a terrifying scream. The Chan master felt awed, and abruptly, he felt goosebumps over his whole body. A kind of terrifying feeling seized him. The Chan master froze. He turned his head and saw a terrifying monster that could not be described with words. With an ape's head and tusks, centipede arms, fleshy wings, every sort of poisonous body filling its whole body, emitting a concentrated poison chi. What made the Chan master feel chills over his whole body was that powerful iciness transmitting from this monster's body that felt like some entity freezing his consciousness at such a close range. That black demon bared its fangs and spat out several rays of distorted poison light. The black, evil chi the demon emitted suddenly washed the Chan master's Buddhist light clean away. The Chan master promptly blocked. Shwa! A lightning-like black snake popped out from the demon's mouth, running through the Chan master's stomach. 7. What is this thing? The Chan master was shocked, his internal organs entirely torn. Su Xing sneered. Buddha says can't say. The Chan school great master screamed, basically not having foreseen Su Xing would release this sort of monster. Completely lacking any preparations, he had been run clean through by the poison light. He felt cold all over his body. Immediately, he gave rise to the idea of fleeing, but that monster's twisting forearms grabbed hold of the Chan school great master. It opened its maw, and the Chan school great master seemed to have seen the world's most terrifying sight. His expression contorted as he screamed. From the monster poured out countless monstrous snakes and insects. Immediately, this supercluster stage great master was devoured with nothing left. Vomit. Su Xing somewhat wanted to vomit. This monster was none other than the 10,000-year Gu demon from that time. After he originally inadvertently obtained this 10,000-year Gu demon, because this 10,000-year Gu demon had grown honestly too malevolently, Su Xing had always never thought of using it, but he had ensuing refined some medicine for it to feed every day. But even so, this 10,000-year Gu demon had grown exceptionally large. If he did not know he could not act in this sea of bitterness without polluting his own karma, Su Xing would never have thought of taking out this 10,000-year Gu demon. After all, this was too damaging to his own status, for he resided on that name of Purple Thunder Monster. The 10,000-year Gu demon's mouth let loose a stinking stench as it was currently chewing on the sarira of the Chan school's master. The faces of the remaining 3 Chan masters were full of fury. You absolutely will die today, monster. Don't think that you can do whatever you please just because you rely on Buddha. Su Xing snorted disdainfully. The 10,000-year Gu demon howled loudly. It seemed to have eaten considerably pleasurably, directing a radiant gaze at the other 3 ancestral masters that were even of the meditative mind. Su Xing surreptitiously sent a strike of divine intent into this rampant 10,000-year Gu demon. Knowing the identities of Wuxia and the others, this 10,000-year Gu demon became much more behaved. Su Xing, this is... Qingxi covered her mouth, somewhat pale in the face. Those monks have only themselves to blame, with no one else to point to. Wuxia was cold. The Harmstar looked meaningfully at Chan Xian, wishing to know what attitude this heavenly solitary star would have upon seeing Su Xing take out the 10,000-year Gu demon. After all, regardless of how it was put, Su Xing doing so was for the sake of helping them ferry across the sea of bitterness. What made Wuxia gratified was that the heavenly solitary star had clearly defined likes and dislikes, but her gaze on that unsightly 10,000-year Gu demon was considerably somewhat hateful. However, Wuxia could not blame her. Su Xing's beauties, other than the humane and compassionate efficacious star and Suwen, all kept a respectable distance from this 10,000-year Gu demon. The other 3 supercluster cultivators immediately took action. Buddhist light and artifacts appeared again. The true spirit Empress too, of the Earth Book waved her long sleeve, first using the earth magic pure land flowing smoke to block the cultivator's powers. Then, she immediately used more magic of the Earth Spirit Book. The 10,000-year Gu demon flapped its wings. Amidst the endless blackness of the Sea of Bitterness, the black 10,000-year Gu demon blended in perfectly. It wantonly sucked in the boundless Sea of Bitterness, and the poison light and poison bugs of its body were released unbridled. The remaining 3 were masters of their own great sects, after all. Their ancestor-level supercluster cultivation, magic weapon, and abilities also could not be underestimated. Although Empress II's defenses were unrivaled, it had been broken considerably by the teamwork of the 3 Chan masters. The 10,000-year Gu demon at this time unleashed an attack at the Wisdom King sect's Chan master. However, the Wisdom King Vajrayana's Chan master was not rushed. He raised his 9-ring Chan staff, and a rock Wisdom King truth body emerged. Its golden talons aimed at the 10,000-year Gu demon. The 10,000-year Gu demon's figure suddenly became big. Its hide that was like steel attacked several times. The Wisdom King Vajrayana's great master saw that he had entangled the 10,000-year Gu demon. Again he chanted an incantation aimed at Su Xing, itching to tear Su Xing's muscle and bone. The Buddhist chant gushed forth, and several rays of light attacked Su Xing. "You cannot make a move," Su Xing said strictly, as if he was issuing a command. "Poor monk shall see how long you can persist." The Wisdom King Vajrayana Great Master sneered. Su Xing's group that had been restricted from acting in the middle of the Sea of Bitterness gave them an extremely big chance. The Chan Master's eyes burst with malice, unleashing the magic energy in his whole body. Su Xing could not act so as to avoid polluting his karma of no killing, and could only rely on body techniques to dodge. The Buddhist aura fired, chasing Su Xing without pause. In the case he was struck, the consequences were too horrible to contemplate. Fortunately, Su Xing had the heart-like mirror and the Bagua escape technique. His awareness surpassed all others, and after many bouts of being locked onto by that Wisdom King Buddhist light, he simply relied on his own reactions that were beyond imagination to dodge. The more the great Wisdom King sect's Chan master attacked, the more his heart was shocked at his opponent's methods. Su Xing dodged consecutively several times, somewhat annoyed. Roar. Suddenly, there was a roar in the sky. The Chan master was taken aback. Suddenly he saw the golden-winged rock his own great Wisdom King 9-ring Chan staff created had been suppressed by the 10,000-year Gu demon. The 10,000-year Gu demon's whole body emitted poison light in great quantities, like a pitch-black pool. Not only this, but it also sucked in a measureless amount of the Sea of Bitterness, making the 10,000-year Gu demon appear even more violent. The martial arts of its 4 monstrous arms grabbed onto the golden-winged rock, and then twisted. "This is bad." The Chan master vomited blood. Upon seeing his life-cast magic weapon about to break, his face lost color in surprise. He promptly struck several Buddhist hand seals, continuously forming them. The golden-winged rock was in its final death throes, its light returning to itself. Its talons grabbed hold, and unexpectedly ripped apart one of the 10,000-year Gu demon's arms. The 10,000-year Gu demon opened its fangs, biting into the rock's neck. The 2 frightening monsters struggled about in the sky. Ah! The Wisdom King sect Chan master vomited blood, and the golden-winged rock finally disintegrated. The 9-ring Chan staff had been turned into black powder by the 10,000-year Gu demon. The life-cast magic weapon had received damage, which made the Wisdom King sect Chan master suffer harm as well. In the next instant, he fell into the boundless Sea of Bitterness, his fate unknown. The 10,000-year Gu demon roared, and stared at the remaining 2 Chan masters. The two remaining Chan masters were no more than supercluster early stage, already with the mind to run when Su Xing took out the true spirit magic treasure, Empress Tuesday. Who were they kidding? What monks have lives? What irreconcilable enemies? As far as they were concerned, those were fleeting as clouds in the sky. Their own lives were most important. On the contrary, having lost a senior monk, this was not a bad thing for competition among their sects in the Buddha kingdom. At this time, they saw the Chan master of the Wisdom King sect fall in defeat. The two no longer hesitated. They raised a Buddhist light and fled, very quickly escaping the sea of bitterness. 5 great supercluster ancestors had surrounded Su Xing's group and had broken apart before even acting. Perhaps no one would have believed it. The 10,000-year Gu demon that seldom emerged was very satisfied. Patting its stomach, in spite of its severed arm, it swaggered back towards its master. Su Xing waved a hand, making it enter an astral stone. Then he put away the Earth Book of Empress Tuesday, making the Earth Book manifest the true spirit Empress too also squandered much star energy. Whatever you want to say it. Su Xing bitterly smiled. Qingxi slightly smiled and shook her head. It seemed she had already recovered. This was decreed by fate. Chan Xian took in a deep breath. Her gaze stared at the faraway other shore. Not saying anything more, she still swiftly flew towards the other shore. At this time, Chan Xian's whole body suddenly stiffened. Her eyes widened, her whole body shivering. Wuxia and Qingxi immediately had similar symptoms, and at this time, a vast pain swelled up through their internal organs. Their whole bodies seemed to be on fire, the searing pain unbearable. The 8th distress of the sea of bitterness. The 5 skandhas were actually powerful, as if their 5 senses had been deprived. The boundless world faded from view, and their surroundings were full of a frightening darkness. Su Xing immediately activated the absolute sincerity soul technique. All of a sudden, he abruptly heard a furious shout, like a warbling. Opening his eyes to look, he turned pale with fright. Breaching the sea of bitterness, a monk rushed out. His kasaya was torn to pieces, battered and exhausted, his claws like an eagle's, like a falcon's. This was the Chan master of the Wisdom King secret sect. Dai Lujishan ha 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 ha. At this time, currently in the middle of the 8th distress, Chan Xian completely was unable to move in time. Regardless at this time whether Chan Xian attacked or defended, so long as she acted with him, she would lose her qualifications. Chan Xian's expression was also very ice-cold. With everything hanging by a thread, in the next instant, Su Xing's figure was like a chilly wind. Without any hesitation, he suddenly erupted, fiercely dashing forth, completely ignoring that sky and earth-ripping chi field and attack of the Wisdom King secret sect Chan master. Su Xing's superb awareness flashed, and he stepped across several zhang of space, arriving beside the Wisdom King sect Chan master. Without saying anything, a sword directly slashed diagonally. A power more bone-chilling than at any other moment came from the sword. At this sort of critical juncture, how could Su Xing hold back in the slightest? Reacting instantly, he released his own strength, making a simple slash with his sword. Yet it was not at all like previous times. His movement was fast to the point there simply was no shadow to see. Following heaven-tearing slash, the air suddenly made a soft noise, as if something had been torn open. A distinct black line immediately emerged along his leg, carving a complete track. The Chan master's complexion greatly changed. Basically unable to react in time, the Chan master raised his hands in a fluster to defend himself. His arms were like shield, releasing Buddhist light. The golden ripples immediately were like a surging tide, a clearly visible tip suddenly appearing before everyone's eyes. Lord Husband! Lord Su! Wuxia and Qingxi cried out at the same time. The former was brimming with worry, the latter feeling shocked. Great Rock Wisdom King slash. 2. The Wisdom King Chan master attacked with all his strength, slamming into the black strangeness that Su Xing's sword brought with it. Kacha! A crisp breaking sound once again rang. There was basically no violent reaction like they had imagined. Su Xing's slash seemingly was plain, but was in fact matchlessly valiant. The so-called Great Rock Wisdom King slash, basically was unable to support Su Xing's attack. The opponent's light red Buddhist light defense broke easily as a chicken egg. The pitch-black trail was lightning in the darkness, flashing by. The pair's surrounding gale suddenly intensified. The whirlwind blew hard, staggering the Chan master back. But the Wisdom King sect Chan master already was nearly fanatical. His arms spread, like a rock extending its wings. His escape technique was swift to the limit. A chilly light flashed across his eyes. Su Xing's face was an incomparable coldness. "This is what you brought upon yourself." His body stopped in midair, his steps freely flashing by, a gale rising everywhere, without any fancy or superfluous movements. Su Xing directly spread his arms. The 12 life-cast flying swords heaven-tearing flew out. These flying swords had gone through Tang Lianxin's nurturing, and were stronger and sharper than ever. The 12 flying swords were like golden dragons, ripping apart the boundless sea of bitterness, transforming into pure killing intent that swirled around the Chan master and attacked. Suddenly, like a suspended galaxy, they attacked. Slash impossible, the Chan master was shocked. "You cannot act." Chan Xian also was moved, hastily acting to rush in front of Su Xing. But heaven tearing was even faster. Dazzling golden light blossomed, carving a beautiful arc in the air around the Chan master, brushing past this man's neck. His huge head followed the light, rolling in the air. The three women were dumb as wooden chickens. Far away, at the other shore, the yellow-browed boy opened his eyes, faintly saying, "A man has lost the qualifications to see the holy monk." "Benefactor Su Xing, what are you doing?" Even the heavenly solitary star Chan Xian, whose heart was like stone, when she saw Su Xing had acted for her sake to pollute his karma by breaking the vow of no killing, destroying all the effort he had put in until now, could not help but be moved. Just how much of an urge was there to be able to renounce the very thing he was pursuing just for an indifferent person? Wuxia and Qingxi rushed to Su Xing's side. Although they said nothing, each of them showed moved expression. Qingxi's gaze glittered. Watching Chan Xian's touched expression, her brows tightly locked. This man is very crafty, unexpectedly using this sort of method to move the heavenly solitary star. The sisters inside Qingxi's star nest gnashed their teeth, believing Su Xing had deliberately done so. Qingxi's eyes were deeply conflicted. She lowered her head, not uttering a word. "Lord husband." Wuxia was very worried and sick at heart. "What's the matter?" Su Xing saw the girl's hurt expressions as comical. "Why would you save Chan Xian? Could it be that you came for my sake?" Chan Xian questioned. As the eternal primary school student once said, "Killing a person perhaps requires a reason, but saving a person doesn't need a reason." Su Xing shrugged his shoulders. The girls did not know what this eternal primary schooler was, but hearing Su Xing's downplaying words, they still felt moved. In following, don't be so pessimistic, alright? The mystery of the sea of bitterness isn't necessarily this. Su Xing patted Chan Xian's shoulder, consoling her. The person that should have been consoled was contrarily consoling her. Chan Xian's mind was somewhat confused. This man apparently was overturning her mind all the time. And perhaps it is indeed as Lord Su says. Qingxi slowly spoke. "These monks made the first move. We cannot be blamed." Chan Xian was expressionless, her gaze towards Su Xing somewhat indifferent. The other shore of the sea of bitterness. When the monks saw Su Xing and the others approach, their gazes were shocked and furious. However, these gazes only existed for a fleeting instant. They then recovered their steadfast expressions. "Everyone who has come, follow novice monk into the 7th celestial." The yellow-browed boy put his hands together. "Thank you for your troubles." Chan Xian seemed to be somewhat preoccupied. However, this benefactor was incapable of laying down the butcher's knife. He has not crossed the sea of bitterness, and can only make himself comfortable here. The yellow-browed boy calmly set down an order of banishment. Everyone's gazes were completely glued to Su Xing. Benefactor was merely acting for the sake of saving your servant, that he would pollute karma with killing intent. This consequence arose from me. Chan Xian ought to assume the responsibility. Chan Xian interrupted. Her resolve actually made the Arava and others that had originally impatiently schemed for her departure quite surprised. Now seeing that the holy monk was merely a step away, and giving up like this honestly was incomprehensible. The yellow-browed boy looked indifferently at Chan Xian. How can you assume responsibility for the karma he polluted? This is cheating Buddha, and you also ought to lose your qualifications. What? Chan Xian froze. Arava nearly laughed out loud. Truly, the heavens are helping me. Although the 5 great supercluster ancestral masters could not stop the heavenly solitary star. Hearing the yellow-browed boy's words made his heart burst with joy. It could be assumed that this yellow-browed boy also was not pleased the heavenly solitary star had come for the robe and bowl. How can this be? Each of Wuxia's words were full of killing intent. Lord Husband staked everything and brought Chan Xian this chance with great difficulty. How could all of that be negated by a few words from the other party? What did everything before count for? Was this all a joke? A gentle hand made Wuxia's murderous air subside. The Su Xing with a face like still water advanced a step and smiled at the boy. May your servant venture to ask what this place is? The other shore. The yellow-browed boy answered. Since this is the other shore, why would you say your servant has not crossed the sea of bitterness? Su Xing ruminated. Could it be the one cheating Buddha is not you? Since this is the other shore, then your servant crossed the sea of bitterness. This is Buddhism's great logic. You have inverted the world, truly irreverent. Shock. No one would have thought that Su Xing would actually face the gatekeeper of the 6th trial and say such things. The yellow-browed boy disdainfully laughed. In the middle of the sea of bitterness, all living things taste the 8 distresses of life. You rashly initiated killing in violation of Buddhism. Thus you are incapable of breaking free from within the 8 distresses. The sea of bitterness naturally has not been crossed. Thus this other shore is not benefactor's other shore. Incredible. Worthy of a boy serving holy monk for noble truths in the 7-floor stupa pagoda, speaking without leaking a drop of sweat. Seeing that Su Xing was apparently taken aback, the yellow-browed boy smiled. Benefactor nevertheless is lucky. You ought to be reverent of Buddha. If this is not your servant's other shore, then how would the other shore's gate open? Su Xing suddenly pointed at the gate to the front, smiling. Ah! The yellow-browed boy and the others were stunned. Subconsciously turning their heads, indeed, the other shore's gates were still shut. There were no signs of opening. Just as the yellow-browed boy thought of mocking Su Xing for nonsense, suddenly, his brain had a sudden realization, saying in shock, not good. He heard Su Xing laugh. If this other shore is not your servant's other shore, then when your servant spoke of the other shore's gate, why would this novice monk believe your servant? 2. Everyone was stunned. Benefactor, you are cunning. Great Master Still Void put his hands together. Cunning, ha 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 ha. Great Master's way of speaking is truly interesting. If I am not on the other shore, then where is the Great Master? Su Xing sneered. This other shore is not benefactor's. Enough of the slippery speech. Su Xing impatiently waved his hand. This novice monk hearing your servant's words just now clearly acknowledges this is your servant's other shore. Otherwise, why would you turn your head to the other shore's gate upon hearing your servant's words? Great Master Still Void was speechless. This man was too cunning. Could it be you wished to negate what you said about crossing the sea of bitterness, and there being no other shore? Su Xing seemingly smiled. The yellow-browed boy coldly said, You violated the vow of no killing in the sea of bitterness. However, I still crossed the sea of bitterness. Su Xing calmly answered, But you broke this pagoda's rules. Naturally you cannot pass. Despite your extravagant embellishments, you nevertheless cannot hide that you broke the rules. The yellow-browed boys apparently found a gap for victory, steadily arguing. The sea of bitterness was contaminated with the karma of killing, breaking the rules. Is this what you determined? Su Xing asked back. The yellow-browed boy had an I knew you would say that expression saying, As expected, you are a layman. The boundless sea of bitterness naturally gives all living things a taste of the 8 distresses of living. Breaking free of these 8 distresses, benefactor violates the vow of no killing, and is thus unable to free himself of the word distress. What is distress? The distress of life, age, What is unfair? Those unable to bear distress, those who have violated the vow of no killing, they are the unfair. Then about unfair, if the other shore is not beneath your servant's feet, what is there? The sea of bitterness appears to have been ferried, but you are actually unfair. This other shore is not your other shore. The two asked and answered. Great Master Stillvoid vaguely felt things were far from encouraging. The yellow-browed boy already was being unwittingly led by the nose. Great Master immediately walked over, interrupting. Poor monk feels nothing more should be said. This man has a glib tongue, reversing what is false. Directly banish him and be done. Well spoken. It seems this great master also has not ascended the other shore from the sea of bitterness. Su Xing had an expression of, I was waiting for you to say that, which made everyone's stomachs feel fully suffocated. What does benefactor mean? Great Master Stillvoid's tone sunk. The 8 distresses of living. The distress of meeting what you hate. Just now Great Master spoke of banishing your servant. Could it be because you aren't hateful of your servant that you would say banish? Great Master Stillvoid's face was cold as frost. Poor monk advises that benefactor not struggle at the very end. To be an annoying troublemaker. Poor monk disdains speaking with you. Struggle at the very end. Be an annoying troublemaker? Obviously, it is the lot of you that are trapped in the 8 distresses. Yet you speak of contaminating the karma of killing. To say your servant broke the rules, you cannot see the forest for the trees. The deranged are you all. You dare speak off the cuff. Aratha's tone was disdainful. Buddha says what every sort of shape and form a person sees, hears, thinks, meets, feels are all false images. You will lose yourself, sinking into suffering. The people are frequently confused by ideas, and therefore are deeply set among them. Could it be great masters have not sunk into the 5 skandhas? Su Xing was deadpan. The yellow-browed boy seemed to have seized onto a tear in Su Xing's argument, mocking. Benefactor contaminated the karma of killing in the sea of bitterness, and still dares to say our bodies are in the 5 skandhas. Truly laughable. Don't believe it? I indeed have a way to prove it. Su Xing laughed. Do not indulge him. Great Master Stillvoid promptly obstructed, sensing that Su Xing had lain some trap. Novice monk accepted the orders of the holy monk to oversee this other shore of the sea of bitterness. For novice monk's body to be trapped in the 5 skandhas is contrary to the thoughts of the holy monk. Novice monk actually wants to see how benefactor will prove it. However, if you are incapable of proving, then novice monk can only ask benefactor's friends to leave this place together, so as to avoid blaspheming Buddha. Don't be so quick to say blaspheming Buddha. I am inviting Buddha to prove it. Su Xing calmly said. The maidens inside the star nest did not dare breathe. What was Su Xing thinking of doing? The others were also quite curious. Inviting Buddha to prove it. Could it be that this man had the capability to call forth Buddha Western Paradise? All confused lines of sight gazed at Su Xing. Su Xing then leisurely asked. Your servant wonders which of you has an image of Buddha? Benefactor would not be happening to invite an image of Buddha to be Buddha, would he? Senior monk extreme happiness mocked. Just watch. However, this image of Buddha, how can your servant be able to carry it on his person? This blasphemes Buddha. Su Xing furrowed his brow. How about this gold Buddha? The yellow-clothed person spoke. Waving his hand, a golden Buddha statue appeared before them. Carved so very lifelike, the precious statue was solemn, as if Buddha had actually descended. It made their hearts feel like bowing in worship. The Buddhist Chan masters immediately put their hands together in salute. Many thanks. Su Xing glanced at this mysterious yellow-robed person. Could it be you are thinking of asking Buddha to climb onto you? The yellow-browed boy asked. Who could have anticipated that Su Xing would briefly inspect it, then suddenly raise his hand and envelop this golden Buddha in purple cloud true star. Instantly, this stately gold Buddha became a puddle of molten gold. How dare you blaspheme Buddha? To burn away a gold statue of Buddha, the yellow-browed boy rebuked. The other Chan masters were also suddenly indignant. Su Xing was neither hurried nor slow. He conscientiously inspected the thick molten gold. I am currently smelting the Buddha's saraira. The yellow-browed boy was even more angry. How can there be saraira inside a golden statue? Su Xing feigned a sudden epiphany and stood up. Since there is no saraira, then there is no harm in me burning a few images of Buddha. Ah! The yellow-browed boy was flabbergasted. Everyone present was a peak Chan master in the Buddha kingdom. Immediately they understood the significance that Su Xing was raising. They were suddenly stunned beyond compare. The Diamond Sutra says, all phenomena and perceptions are illusions. When one sees through them, one sees Tathagata. 3. Su Xing slowly said. The Chan sect often emphasizes Buddha nature is inherently empty. The intrinsic Buddha is devoid of marks. The so-called image of Buddha lies in guiding believers to go worship the essence and truth behind the idol. Speaking from a Buddhist logic, not only can you not treat the image of Buddha you see as seeing Buddha, even if you go see Buddha in person, you cannot recognize as having seen his corporeal body and think it the master. Otherwise, you will violate the mistake of attachment. Do you dare to say you were not confused by this false image just now? Not being trapped in these 5 skandhas? Everyone drew in a breath. How could the Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors not have understood this logic? It was just that they had never thought of daring to burn Buddha. You! The yellow-browed boy tried to speak for a long time, but could not say anything. Su Xing's words were invulnerable. How could the other Chan masters dare to retort even half a word? Amazing, amazing! Your Highness Buddhist mind has made your servant expand his horizons. The burning of this golden Buddha was worth it. The yellow-clothed person struck his palm. Su Xing hid his embarrassed expression. The yellow-browed boy had always felt the progression of things until now had been very fishy, but he could not figure out where. His words were stuck in his throat, and he was dumb as a wooden chicken. Su Xing, you're so awesome, to stun these monks. Now they ought not have anything to say. This is sophistry. Great Master Stillvoid had cultivated Buddhism for countless years, and very quickly, he recovered and bellowed. Little monk, you cannot believe him. He has obviously polluted the karma of killing in the sea of bitterness and broke the rules. Yet he tore himself above the 8 distresses. Clearly he has used a straw man argument, reversing karma. Su Xing sneered. No mistake, Su Xing's was indeed sophistry. The so-called sophistry was to lay down the next logic in a debate that made the other party follow and debate upon. By doing so, the other party would save little and lose much. The other party would undoubtedly lose the debate. However, Great Master Stillvoid sensed this too late. Because Su Xing's peerless sophistry that shocked the world had firmly constricted the yellow-browed boy. Straw man arguments were fine, as was reversing karma. The yellow-browed boy and the others really were puzzled by the idea of Su Xing burning Buddha. That was to say, everyone present honestly did not have the qualifications to say that had ferried across the sea of bitterness 8 distresses, and ascended the other shore. Su Xing did not ascend the other shore. This point was not discredited. The corner of Wuxia's lips curled in a smile, very full of a desire to open and look into this man's mind. An impulse to see just what sort of things that were loaded inside. To unexpectedly be able to twist and warp the world under the rules the other party established. Honestly, this was inconceivable. Qingci and Chan Xian also were lost and confused by what Su Xing said. By the very end, Su Xing had already turned back to front, completely reversing karma. Only then did his counterparts return to their senses. Qingci only felt this man's thoughts honestly were very frightening. Lord Su honestly is more glib-tongued than those Buddhas. Qingci softly laughed. Chan Xian did not reply. The heavenly solitary stars' always firm expression were placed on Su Xing arguing with those Chan masters, and began to never leave. She followed Su Xing's eloquence, his contentions. Chan Xian only felt her heart pound powerfully. And when she saw Su Xing burn the gold Buddha to obtain saraira, Chan Xian was even more stifled. This was the first time the heavenly solitary star felt her heart stir. There was a sort of urge to follow him for her whole life. Qingci shook her several times. Only then did Chan Xian return to her senses, whispering her thanks. She shut her eyes in contemplation, reciting Dharma, making her mind maintain calm. Qingci very helplessly sighed. The Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors still quarreled over the rules of the Sea of Bitterness. The great ancestral masters felt Su Xing was far scarier than the heavenly solitary star. How could they be willing to let him go see the saint? Just as they were utterly noisy, suddenly, a faintly discernible Buddhist sound came from the other shore. You are trapped in the avidya of the suffering of all things. The reason is that you are unable to see the true ultimate essence within and manifest your dormant spiritual nature. When you covet things, you are incapable of seeing clearly the desire rising within yourself the moment it does arise. When you are angry, you are incapable of seeing clearly the hate rising within yourself the moment it does arise. When you are sluggish, you are incapable of seeing clearly angry ignorance within yourself the moment it does arise. Therefore, desire, anger, and stupidity still control you within deep avidya. You actually are not at all masters of your own hearts. You have been spurred about by your untamed hearts. This is it. What is terrible is that you cannot even see that you yourself have been spurred about by this matter. To still think you want it as much. Actually, this is not true. That greed nevertheless is your untamed heart inciting you to endless chatter. That anger is your untamed heart instigating you to struggle slanderously. That stupidity is your untamed heart playing jokes on you. This voice was clean as nature, going non-stop through their hearts. Instantly, everyone seemed to have come to a realization, ending their bickering. Holy monk for noble truths. The Chan masters saluted. Little boy, you have yet to be able to comprehend the great way. Return to the pagoda's interior and meditate. As holy monk orders. The yellow-browed boy saluted, and his figure immediately vanished like smoke. The gate of the other shore slowly opened, without a word said. Not needing to say anything more, Great Master Still Void understood that holy monk for noble truths had already recognized that Su Xing had the qualifications to enter. After saluting, the group walked in. After a boundless white light passed through their eyes, they saw an ordinary room of a monastery. An old man like stone sat in meditation. His face was calm as a dry well, exuding solemnity. Everyone felt deep veneration. He was precisely holy monk for noble truths, Buddha West approaches. Buddhism has a famous proposition called luminous mind, adventitious afflictions, indicated that the way to breaking free was in removing the contamination of adventitious afflictions, clearly showing one's inherent tranquil nature. But in this world of battle everywhere in Liangshan, to not pollute the vulgar world's karma was an extremely difficult thing. Even Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors used cultivation to distinguish their rankings, cheating and deceiving one another. They were more or less the same as other cultivators. In Su Xing's perception, the Buddha Kingdom's 6 ancestors were all like this. That legendary holy monk for noble truths probably was as tyrannical as Emperor Liang. However, upon first seeing this Buddha West approaches, he had a spontaneous feeling of reverence, not at all with the reverence of confronting Emperor Liang's unparalleled in the word tyrannical qi, rather, a sort of genuine deference. So it turned out the people of this world actually could have someone capable of achieving such specklessness, such refinement. In the world of the future, when the paths of the sutras are destroyed and ended, I, with loving kindness, compassion and empathy, will specially retain this sutra, to dwell for 100 years. If there are such beings, who encounter this sutra, they can, as they wish, according to their aspirations, all attain deliverance. Tathagatas arising in the world are difficult to meet and difficult to see. All Buddha's paths of sutras are difficult to attain and difficult to hear. Meeting good knowing friends, to hear the Dharma, to be able to practice it, this is also a difficulty. If having heard this sutra, with joyful faith receiving and upholding it, this is the difficulty within difficulties, with none surpassing this difficulty. 2. Holy monk for noble truths slowly spoke. Instantly, an auspicious light glowed. The ground bubbled forth with golden lotuses, a strange scent assailing them. The originally unadorned room gave birth to golden lotus flowers everywhere. The holy monk's body seemed to open a treasure tree of Buddhism, illuminating in all directions. That was the legendary meditative mind lotus flower. 3 golden lotus platforms immediately rose from the ground. Upon seeing this, the group reverently and respectfully sat upon them. We wish to hear the holy monk's Chan technique. Great Master Still Void, Aratha, and the others stowed their malice, devoutly speaking. Buddha West Approaches nevertheless did not immediately speak. Rather, he faintly said, "Among the ladies and gentlemen, it seems one has not ceased being unforgiving." Holy monk, why say this? Great Master Still Void was astonished. The Azure Dragon Territory Cultivator and Star General naturally are unforgiving. Senior Monk Extreme Happiness could not help but look at Su Xing and the others. Sadhu sadhu. Since everyone can pass through the 7-floor Stupa Pagoda's trials, then you are people with connection to my Buddha. At the top of the 7-floor Stupa Pagoda, there is a colored glass Buddhist lantern. Those who wish to listen to poor monks speak of Chan technique can stay behind and listen. Those who wish to understand the mind and see the nature, to shed contamination, may scale the pagoda's apex. Once holy monk for noble truths finished speaking, in the void, the lotus flower pagoda became a flower-lined corridor reaching the highest level of the 7-floor Stupa Pagoda. 5 dragons colored glass lamp. When Su Xing heard these words, his thoughts moved. Wuxia's eyes hinted to Su Xing listening to the holy monk's speech to bloom the meditative mind lotus flower. Clearly somewhat needed to rely on a component of innate skill. Even if he had a glib tongue, a deluge of heavenly flowers, throughout the trials of the 7-floor Stupa Pagoda, but he was very self-aware. He knew that he basically had no talent in cultivating Buddhism. The 5 dragons colored glass lamp that Chao Gai spoke of was Su Xing's best choice. Hearing that the 5 dragons colored glass lamp was at the top of the pagoda, the other ancestral masters began to stir, yet none dared to be the first to make a noise. Great Master, your servant shall be bold. Su Xing rose, put his hands together, not hesitating. Buddha West Approaches faintly smiled. Wuxia immediately rose. The two of them glanced at Chan Xian and Qingxi. The latter did not seem to moved at this 5 dragons colored glass lamp. After hinting, Su Xing and Wuxia ascended the lotus staircase together, disappearing into the top of the pagoda. Aratha, Great Master Still Void looked at each other in dismay, their expressions sullen. Poor monk shall speak here. Buddha West Approaches faintly smiled. Immediately, Brahmanistic sounds filled the world, and a treasure light filled the void. At the 7-floor Stupa Pagoda's top stood a statue of Buddha. Suspended above it was a colored glass lamp. That lamp used a shala treasure tree struck by lightning as its lantern case. 5 fire dragon souls coiled around it, surrounding a faint, silver-colored glass flame. Su Xing flew up to inspect it carefully, discovering this 5 dragons colored glass lamp simply was incapable of refinement. However, when Su Xing drew close, the 5 dragons colored glass lamp immediately released endless light enveloping the entire top of the pagoda within. It seems I can only use the 5 dragons colored glass lamp right here. Su Xing had no choice. Your servant shall stand guard for Lord Husband. Wuxia felt things were grave, manifesting the destined star weapon Noble Frost Demonic Lotus, standing strict vigil. Su Xing no longer hesitated. Seizing the time that the treasure flame was radiating light, he immediately sat in meditation beneath the lamp, reciting Chan Dharma. The 5 dragons colored glass lamp's 5 fire dragons wriggled about on the lamp, as if they had come to life. The mouths of the 5 dragons spat treasure flame, and the 5 dragons' treasure flame burned on Su Xing's body, immersing his whole body in the blink of an eye. The 7-floor Stupa Pagoda's top suddenly released a glaring golden Buddhist light. This Buddhist light spread across the blue sky. The entire central celestial was bathed in the Buddhist light. The millions of Buddhist residents that focused on the 7-floor Stupa Pagoda up until now suddenly prostrated in worship, reciting Dharma, incomparably pious. Wu Xinjie and Lining Mei raised their heads. Ah, it seems young lord has successfully reached the 7th floor of the pagoda. Wu Xinjie let out a sigh of exclamation. The 7-floor Stupa Pagoda seemingly manifested 5 divine coiling dragons, spraying silver flames. In the Buddha kingdom bursting open with bliss, they drew a perfect scene. Buddhism's legendary secret treasure. The 5 dragons colored glass lamp had a fully justified reputation, as expected. Even if they were separated by a great distance, they felt a sort of Buddhist saint's mighty baptism. It seemed what Chao Gai said was correct. This 5 dragons colored glass lamp indeed could blossom the meditative mind lotus flower, but they did not know just what Chao Gai's third calamity was. Thinking of this, Wu Xinjie again was inwardly anxious. Look out! Lin Yingmei abruptly shouted, her hands rising and falling. Several scarlet ropes like spirit snakes rolled, firmly binding Lin Yingmei's arms and legs. Lin Yingmei exerted star energy to break free, but the ropes coiled even tighter. Don't waste your strength. This courtyard's rope of intimacy tightens the more you struggle. 5. You had best obediently be captured. A dozen monks and a dozen beautiful women walked out in succession from the 4 corners. They had been snooping for a long time, and each of them gazed at Lin Yingmei's slender body, showing sinister smiles. She honestly is a beauty. To serve one man really is too wasteful. The Happiness Together courtyard honestly departs from the orthodoxy. Even when the 7-floor stupa pagoda's 5 dragons are releasing such bright light, you have not even a shred of piety. Wu Xinjie smiled. Having offended the Happiness Together courtyard, how can we allow you to be savage? Senior monk has orders. Today we will take you to be cauldrons. The dozen monks grabbed the rope of intimacy, complacently speaking. Do these little sisters also think so? Wu Xinjie asked those female cultivators of the Happiness Together courtyard. You had best obediently listen to senior monk's words. Your man is surrounded by misfortune in the stupa pagoda. The female cultivator shouted. For the Happiness Together courtyard to think of disappearing like smoke from here in the Buddha kingdom. You are too impatient. However, that is not such a bad thing either. Hua Shuai emerged, jumping onto Wu Xinjie's shoulder. Wanton. The Happiness Together courtyard's dozen monks shouted, each pulling the rope, attempting to pull Lin Yingmei over. The majestic star disdainfully snorted. Suddenly, she put strength into her arms, and like 1,000 caddies, the dozen monks only felt a power like that of a raging ride rush over. Their bodies uncontrollably were pulled back towards her. This is bad. A supercluster stage great monk's expression changed. But it really was too early to say such a fact. With Arctic Star Serpent spear in hand, Lin Yingmei's hand clenched the spear. Her figure swayed, and like a hurricane of snow, spear-like cold as shadows flew out. Lin Yingmei's afterimages instantly returned to their original location. The majestic star stood tall and proud, her gaze absolutely cold, emitting a stifling heroic aura. How can she be a star general? The supercluster ancestor of the Happiness Together courtyard did not dare believe it. Lin Yingmei coldly snorted. Majestic star Lin Chong. The supercluster ancestor left behind his final words. Happiness Together courtyard, completely annihilated. Monks just ought to keep reading their sutras. What are you doing thinking of fighting? Wu Xinjie shook her head, sympathetic. Marvelous, marvelous, as expected of majestic star panther head Lin Chong, for one spear to dispatch everything without an issue. Suddenly, at this moment, praise resounded from this icy air that had yet to disperse. The frost scattered, and out walked a man and woman. Schwanger, we have now encountered our opponents. The man laughed. The woman's lips curled into a smile. She was a 5-tiger general, prestige star double clubs Huyan Shuang. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.